He saved the puppy from the frozen river, but what happens next no one believes. The icy water cut like knives as Michael Peterson plunged into the partially frozen river. The golden puppy struggled against the current, its desperate whimpers echoing through the cold July morning in Aspen. "Hang on, little one," Michael shouted, feeling the thermal shock pierce his body like thousands of needles. On the shore, 8 adult dogs watched in silence, their breaths forming clouds of vapor in the frigid air. The 42-year-old businessman didn't think twice before diving in. His freight transport business was failing. His wife, Jennifer, had left home 3 weeks ago, and his teenage daughter, Emily, barely spoke to him. But in that moment, only one thing mattered: saving that little life. When he finally managed to hold the shivering puppy against his chest, Michael had no idea that this act would not only change his own life, but transform the entire community in ways no one could believe. "There, you're safe now," he murmured, carrying the animal to the shore. The other dogs approached cautiously, sniffing the wet puppy. Michael noticed they were all the same breed, with thick coats and light eyes. They looked lost, abandoned. Mrs. Thompson, 73 years old, came running down the trail, her cane tapping against the rocky ground. "Michael, what happened? I heard the barking from my house. I found this puppy drowning in the river. Mrs. Thompson, and these other dogs seem abandoned too." The elderly woman looked at the group of animals and shook her head sadly. "This has been happening a lot around here. City folks come for the weekend and leave their pets behind when they go back. It's a shame." Michael dried the puppy with his jacket, his heart aching. He was going through tough times himself, but he couldn't ignore the suffering of those animals. "I'll take them home, at least until I can find them a proper place." "Be careful, Michael. Your situation isn't easy. I heard the transport company—" "It's fine, Mrs. Thompson, thank you for your concern." On the way home, Michael carried the puppy in his arms, while the other dogs followed in a line. The house that once held a happy family now echoed with emptiness, furniture covered in sheets and photographs turned face down. He set up a warm corner for the puppy in the laundry room and left water and scraps of food for the other dogs in the backyard. When he finally sat on the living room couch, reality hit hard. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. The phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Robert Mitchell, his business partner at the transport company. "Michael, we need to talk urgently. The bank is threatening to call in our debt. We have until Friday to pay $300,000 or we lose everything." "Friday? Robert, that's impossible. That's just 4 days." "I know, but it's either this or total bankruptcy. And there's more. I got an offer from Horizon Logistics. They want to buy our client list and trucks for $200,000. It's less than we owe, but at least we'd walk away debt-free." Michael felt the ground drop beneath him. Horizon Logistics was owned by Victor Reynolds, his former best friend turned biggest business rival. "Victor's behind this, isn't he? He wants to see us ruined." "Michael, we can't think about conspiracies now. We need to be practical. Give me until tomorrow to think." When he hung up, Michael looked out the window and saw the dogs lying in a circle in the yard, protecting the puppy in the center. That image moved him deeply. Even with nothing, they took care of each other. The next morning, Michael woke up to soft barks. The puppy was playing with the other dogs, seemingly recovered from the traumatic experience. Looking closer, Michael noticed they were all Siberian Huskies, expensive, noble-bred animals. "How could anyone abandon dogs like these?" he murmured, pouring the food he'd bought on his way back the night before. His phone rang. It was Emily, his 17-year-old daughter. "Dad, Mom told me you have 9 dogs at home, is that true?" "Hi, sweetheart, I found them abandoned. I saved a puppy from drowning and the others just followed." "Dad, you can't take care of 9 dogs. You two are struggling. The business is failing." "Emily, I can't just abandon them again. They trust me now." "Dad, be realistic. You can barely take care of yourself." The call ended abruptly, leaving Michael even more distressed. His daughter was right, but how could he explain that those dogs were the only good thing that had happened to him in weeks? He decided to take the puppy to the vet for a checkup. Dr. Paul Harrison, the town's vet for over 20 years, examined the dog carefully. "This puppy is in excellent shape, Michael, and from what you've described about the others, they seem to be from the same litter or family. Siberian Huskies of this quality cost between $3,000 to $5,000 each." "What? So they weren't abandoned by accident?" "Highly unlikely. These are show dogs or specialized breeders. Someone invested a lot of money in them." Michael left the clinic with more questions than answers. If the dogs were so valuable, why were they abandoned? And why on the very trail he walked every morning? Back home, he found Mrs. Thompson waiting at his door with a worried expression. "Michael, I need to tell you something. Last night I saw a man lurking around your house. He stared at the dogs for a long time before leaving." "What did he look like?" "Tall, grey hair, driving a black pickup truck. He seemed to know the animals." A chill ran down Michael's spine. What if someone came to claim the dogs? What if he was accused of theft? His situation was already complicated enough. That afternoon, as he sorted through company documents in a desperate attempt to find a financial solution, Michael heard voices in the backyard. Through the window, he saw a tall, grey-haired man talking to the dogs as if he knew them. Michael rushed outside. "Can I help you with something?" The man turned. He was around 55, dressed in expensive clothes with a stern expression. "My name is Anthony Oakley. These dogs are mine." Michael's heart raced. "Yours?" "But they were abandoned in the woods." "Not abandoned, lost. They escaped my kennel during a storm 4 days ago. I've been searching for them ever since." "If they're yours, can you prove it?" Anthony showed his phone, dozens of photos of the dogs, registration papers, and pedigrees. "Each of these animals is worth over $4,000. They're show champions and purebred breeders." Michael felt his world collapse. Not only would he lose the dogs he'd grown attached to, but also the only joy left in his life. I found them in the woods. I saved the puppy from drowning in the river. And I thank you for that. But now I need to take them back. Please, just give me one day to say goodbye. They've bonded with me." Anthony looked at the dogs who were huddled around Michael as if protecting him. "Interesting. They're usually very wary of strangers. Seems they've really taken to you. They're amazing. They care for each other. They're loyal, smart. You seem to understand dogs. Honestly, I don't. Until a week ago, I had never taken care of an animal in my life, but they taught me so much about loyalty and family." Anthony stood silent for a moment, watching Michael interact with the dogs. "I'll come back tomorrow morning to pick them up. Be ready to say goodbye." When Anthony left, Michael sat on the backyard ground and was immediately surrounded by the 9 dogs. The puppy he had saved climbed into his lap and began licking his face. "It's going to be hard to let you all go," he murmured. That night, Michael barely slept. Through his bedroom window, he saw the dogs lying in a circle in the yard, watchful and united. The sight made him reflect on his own life. When was the last time he had shown such loyalty to his family? When was the last time he fought for something beyond money? The next morning, Anthony arrived early with a van adapted for animal transport. Michael had spent the night playing and saying goodbye to each of the dogs. "You seem genuinely attached to them," Anthony remarked, watching Michael hug the golden puppy one last time. "They came at a really tough time in my life. They gave me purpose when I had none left." "What kind of work do you do?" "I own a logistics company. Or rather, I did. We're going bankrupt." Anthony paused while loading the dogs into the van. "Logistics? What kind of cargo?" "Different kinds. Mostly agricultural products and construction materials for the mountain region." "Interesting. I have a problem you might be able to help me solve." Michael looked at him curiously. "I run a kennel with over 40 competition dogs. I need to transport them to shows across the state, but regular transport companies don't handle animals properly. I've had serious issues with dogs getting injured during transit. I could adapt one of our trucks for animal transport. It would be a fixed contract. 2 trips a month, $1,500 per trip. Would you be interested?" Michael quickly did the math. $3,000 a month wouldn't solve all his problems, but it would be a huge relief. "Absolutely, but what about the dogs? Are you still taking them?" Anthony smiled for the first time. "How about a deal? You keep the puppy you saved, and I'll hire you to transport my dogs. That way you'll have a reminder of this experience, and I'll have a transporter who truly cares about their well-being." Michael could hardly believe what he was hearing. It felt like a miracle. "You're serious?" "Completely. But there are conditions. You'll need to adapt at least one truck with temperature control, proper ventilation, and individual compartments. And I need to trust that you'll treat my dogs the way you treated these 9. You can count on me." When Anthony left with 8 of the 9 dogs, Michael stayed in the yard with the golden puppy, whom he had named Hope. The name felt prophetic at that moment. He immediately called Robert. "Robert, I got a contract. It doesn't fix everything, but it's a start." "What kind of contract?" "Specialized animal transport, $3,000 guaranteed per month." "Michael, that's great, but we still need $297,000 by Friday." Reality came crashing back. A small contract wouldn't save the company. "I'll go to the bank and try to renegotiate the deadline." "I already tried. They won't budge. It's all or nothing." Michael hung up and looked at Hope, who was playing with an old rope in the yard. "At least you're staying with me, huh, girl?" That Tuesday afternoon, Michael went to the bank for one last attempt. The manager, Mark Johnson, was firm. "Mr. Peterson, your company has been delinquent for 3 months. The bank has been very patient. But now I have a new contract. I can show there's hope for recovery. $3,000 a month won't even cover the interest on your debt. I'm sorry, but our decision is final." Michael left the bank defeated. On his way home, he stopped at the store to buy food for Hope. That's when he overheard a conversation that caught his attention. "Horizon Logistics is hiring truck drivers," one man said to another. "Victor Reynolds is expanding really fast. I heard he bought the client portfolios from several small transport companies that went bankrupt recently." Michael felt his blood boil. Victor was taking advantage of the crisis to eliminate competition and grow his business. He'd probably even helped tighten the financial noose around his company. At home, he found Hope playing in the backyard with a tennis ball she'd found somewhere. The dog's simple joy contrasted with his growing despair. The phone rang. It was Jennifer, his wife. "Michael, Emily told me you took in a dog." "Hi, Jennifer. Yeah, a puppy I rescued from the river." "Michael, you're in no position to care for an animal right now. Your life is a mess. Maybe that's exactly why I need her." You've always been like this, avoiding reality. Instead of focusing on real problems, you distract yourself with other things. "Jennifer, this little dog has given me more joy in the last 48 hours than I've had in the last 3 months. That's exactly the problem, Michael. You look for escapism instead of facing your issues. That's why our family fell apart." The call ended abruptly, leaving Michael even more shaken. Was his wife right? Was he really running from reality by bonding with Hope? Wednesday morning, Michael woke up to a surprise. Hope had completely destroyed one of the living room couches. Stuffing scattered everywhere. "Hope, what did you do?" The puppy hid behind the armchair, clearly knowing she'd done something wrong. Michael sighed, staring at the mess. Another problem on his already long list. He spent the morning cleaning and researching dog behavior online. He learned that young dogs could develop separation anxiety and destructive behaviors when left alone. Great. Not only can I barely afford to keep you, now I'll have to remodel the whole house. The phone rang. It was Anthony Oakley. "Michael, how's Hope doing?" "To be honest, she destroyed my couch this morning." Anthony laughed. "That's normal. Husky puppies are very active and smart. They need constant stimulation. If they get bored, they'll tear everything apart." "Great time to tell me that." "Relax, there's a solution. How about we start work earlier? I have an exhibition in Boulder next weekend. You can bring Hope along. Socializing with other dogs will help her behavior." "Are you serious?" "Absolutely. And you'll learn hands-on how to handle these dogs. I'll send you the specs for modifying your truck." When he hung up, Michael felt a mix of hope and panic. He needed at least $15,000 to make the necessary truck modifications, money he definitely didn't have. He called Robert Mitchell. "Robert, I need to borrow 15 grand to modify the truck." "Michael, have you lost your mind? We owe 300,000, and you want to spend 15 more? It's an investment. Without the modifications, I can't do the job, and forget it. I got another offer from Horizon Logistics. Now they're offering 250,000 for our assets. 50,000 more, why? I don't know and I don't care. It's our only way out. Robert, give me 2 more days, please. Michael, you're fooling yourself. Face reality. When he hung up, Michael sat on the floor of the destroyed living room, and Hope cautiously approached, as if sensing his sadness. What are we going to do, girl? I'm out of options. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was Mrs. Thompson carrying a meal and a worried expression. Michael, I brought you lunch. I noticed you haven't been eating well. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. That's very kind of you. May I come in? I'd like to meet the little dog you saved. When Mrs. Thompson saw the state of the living room, she shook her head knowingly. Big puppies are like that. My late husband used to raise hunting dogs. The house was always turned upside down. See? Another sign I'm not cut out to take care of her. Nonsense, you just need to learn, and I can teach you a thing or two. Mrs. Thompson sat on the floor and called Hope, who came right away. With firm but gentle movements, she began teaching the dog basic commands. See, she's smart, she just needs guidance. Mrs. Thompson, can I ask you something personal? How do you stay so optimistic at 73? Son, I've lived long. Enough to know problems always pass. What doesn't pass is the regret of not trying. But what if there's nothing left to do? There's always something. Sometimes we just don't see it because we're looking in the wrong direction. After Mrs. Thompson left, Michael kept thinking about her words. Maybe he really had been looking the wrong way. Instead of focusing only on the financial problem, he could look for creative solutions. He spent the afternoon researching funding for small business owners and special credit lines. He discovered a program from the Aspen city government to support sustainable and innovative businesses. On Thursday morning, Michael was in line at City Hall with a folder full of documents when his phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello. Mr. Peterson, this is Fiona Adams from the Mountain Region newspaper. I'd like to interview you. An interview? About what? About the dog rescue in the river. The story has spread through town, and we want to feature people who help abandoned animals. Michael froze. The last thing he needed was publicity about his financial situation. I'm not interested, thank you. Mr. Peterson, it would be a great opportunity to talk about the issue of animal abandonment in the area. Many people don't know how to help. I really can't right now. When he hung up, he realized it was his turn at City Hall. The clerk, a middle-aged woman named Sarah, carefully reviewed his documents. Mr. Peterson, your project is interesting, but there are a few issues. First, the company must be up to date on taxes. We're 3 months behind, but we have a plan to catch up. Second, you need to submit a detailed business plan with financial projections. I can prepare that. And third, you must provide real collateral worth 50% of the requested loan. Michael's heart sank. Real collateral meant property, or vehicles free of liens, exactly what he didn't have. Are there any exceptions? I'm sorry, but those are the program's rules. He left City Hall completely discouraged. It was Friday, the last day of the bank's ultimatum, and he had no options left. He'd have to accept Horizon Logistics' offer and shut down his business for good. At home, he found Hope sleeping, peacefully in the backyard, oblivious to all the human troubles around her. Michael sat beside her and began stroking her golden fur. At least you'll be okay, girl. I'll find you a good family. Just then, his phone rang. It was Anthony, Oakley. Michael, how are the preparations for Sunday's trip going? Anthony, I need to tell you something. I won't be able to make the truck modifications. My company is closing today. What do you mean? Michael explained the entire financial situation, from the bank debt to Friday's ultimatum. I say that's really a tough spot. I'm so sorry to cancel our agreement. Hold on a moment, Michael. Don't make any rash decisions. Let me make a few calls and get back to you. An hour later, Anthony called back. Michael, after talking to some dog breeder friends, I found out there's a huge demand for specialized animal transport across the state. Several breeders have the same problem as me. So, what if we formed a partnership? I'll provide the capital to pay off your debts and modify the trucks, and you contribute your transport expertise and the company's license. Michael could hardly believe what he was hearing. Are you serious? Completely? But there are conditions. First, I keep 51% of the company, ensuring control over decisions. Second, you commit to learning everything about animal handling and behavior. And third, we start small, only transporting competition dogs. Anthony, this would completely change my life. It would change mine too. I've been looking for a trustworthy partner to expand my business for years. I think our meeting was more than just luck. Luck? Didn't you find it odd that my dogs ran away to the exact spot where you walk every morning? Michael fell silent for a moment. Are you saying that? I'm saying maybe Hope lives up to her name. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The following Monday, Michael was at the notary signing the partnership papers when Robert called, furious. Michael, have you lost your mind? You cancelled the sale to Horizon Logistics without consulting me. Robert, I found a better solution. We have a new partner who will pay off all the debts. What new partner? You didn't tell me anything. It's a long story. Can we talk in person? Let's talk. Michael, you betrayed me. I spent the whole week negotiating with Victor Reynolds, and now you come up with this absurd idea. Robert, calm down. Let's handle this like adults. We're handling nothing. I want my share of the company. If you want to keep this dog transport business, buy me out and I'm gone. When he hung up, Michael realized he'd created a new problem. Robert owned 40% of the company and could complicate the deal with Anthony. Trouble? Anthony asked, noticing Michael's worried expression. My partner hates the idea. He wants out. Maybe that's for the best. Forced partnerships never work. But he wants compensation for his share. And we don't have the money. How much is he asking? I don't know yet, but knowing Robert, he'll demand as much as possible. Anthony thought for a moment. Let's tackle one problem at a time. First, we'll pay off the bank debt and save the company. Then we'll deal with your ex-partner. That Monday afternoon, Michael and Anthony went to the bank to settle the debt. Manager Mark Johnson could barely hide his surprise when the $300,000 were deposited. Mr. Peterson, I admit I didn't expect this. How did you get the money? New investors, Mr. Johnson. Sometimes salvation comes from where you least expect it. As they left the bank, Michael felt indescribable relief. For the first time in months, he could sleep without worrying about bankruptcy. Thank you, Anthony. You saved my life. We're still at the beginning, Michael. Now the real hard work starts. On Tuesday, the adaptations on the first truck began. Michael hired a specialized company to install an air conditioning system, individual compartments with ventilation, and non-slip flooring. The total investment would be $45,000. While overseeing the work, Michael received an unexpected call. It was Victor Reynolds from Horizon Logistics. Michael, I heard you didn't sell the company after all. Hi, Victor. No, I managed to resolve the issues another way. Interesting. And may I ask how? Why the interest? Professional curiosity. I've always admired your persistence. Michael was suspicious of Victor's seemingly friendly tone. They had been best friends in their youth, but business rivalry had destroyed their friendship. Thanks, Victor. I have to go now. Michael, before you hang up, know that my door is always open if you change your mind about selling. When the call ended, Michael felt uneasy. Why was Victor still showing interest in the company even after it had been saved? On Wednesday, Robert Mitchell showed up at the transport office with a determined expression and an envelope in his hand. Michael, here's my proposal. I want $200,000 for my share of the company. $200,000? Robert, that's more than half the company's total value. The company is worth at least $500,000 now that it's debt-free. My 40% share is worth $200,000. But you're forgetting I also had costs to save the company. That's your problem. I want my money, or I'll take legal action to dissolve the partnership. Michael realized Robert was being inflexible. A legal battle could seriously complicate the new partnership with Anthony. Give me a few days to get the money. You have until Monday. After that, I'm calling my lawyer. When Robert left, Michael called Anthony and told him about the blackmail. $200,000? Isn't your ex-partner being a bit greedy? He knows I'm in a vulnerable position and is taking advantage. Well, at least this way we'll be rid of him for good. I'll arrange another 200,000. Anthony, you've already invested so much, I can't accept more money. Michael, think of it as a long-term investment. I'd rather pay now and be sure we won't have future problems. On Thursday, while overseeing the final adjustments on the adapted truck, Michael received an unexpected visit. It was Jennifer, his wife, accompanied by Emily. "Hi, Michael. Can we talk?" "Of course, come in." Emily looked around the office curiously. "Dad, I heard you got a new partner." "Yes, sweetheart. Things are getting better." Jennifer seemed nervous. "Michael, I wanted to apologize for how I reacted when you kept the dog. Maybe I was too harsh. You were worried. It's understandable." "Actually," Jennifer continued, "I was scared. Scared you'd give up fighting for our problems." "And you think I gave up?" "No, on the contrary. It seems like you found the strength to start over." Emily moved closer to her father. "Dad, can I meet Hope?" "Of course, she's at home. Let's go there." On the way home, Jennifer talked about the last few days. "I've been thinking a lot about our conversation, about you seeking escapism. Maybe I was the one running from reality by leaving home. Jennifer, we both made mistakes. I shut myself off in my problems, and you shut yourself off in disappointment. And now, what do we do? How about we try again, slowly, no rush?" When they got home, Hope ran to greet them, jumping and barking with joy. Emily fell in love with the puppy immediately. "Dad, she's beautiful and so affectionate. Want to see what she's learned? Hope, sit." The puppy obeyed immediately, making Emily clap her hands with joy. "How did you teach her that?" "Mrs. Thompson helped me, and I bought some books on training." Jennifer watched the interaction between her husband and daughter with a nostalgic smile. "It's been a long time since I've seen you two so connected. Hope gave us that, a reason to be together without fighting." That evening, Jennifer stayed for dinner. It was the first time in nearly a month that the family gathered around the table. Hope moved between them, receiving affection from everyone. "Dad," Emily said, "tell me about this new dog transport business." Michael explained the meeting with Anthony, the partnership proposal and their future plans. "It's a market that's growing fast. People with purebred dogs need to take them to shows, specialized vets, breeders, and almost no one offers proper transport." "Sounds promising," Jennifer remarked. "And do you like what you're doing?" "For the first time in years, I wake up excited to work. It's different when you do something meaningful." "What's meaningful about it?" Emily asked. "Taking care of animals that can't defend themselves, helping people who love their dogs. It's more than just hauling cargo, you know?" When Jennifer and Emily left, Michael felt more hopeful about the family's future. Rebuilding trust. Wouldn't be easy, but at least there was dialogue again. On Friday, the adapted truck was ready. Michael took Hope for a test drive. The dog was comfortable in the padded compartment, with pleasant temperature and good ventilation. "What do you think, girl? Approved?" Hope barked once as if giving her approval. Anthony arrived at noon to inspect the work. "It's excellent, Michael. Better than I expected. When's our first transport?" "Sunday. I have 6 dogs to take to a show in Boulder. It'll be our real test." "I'm excited and nervous at the same time. That's normal, but I'm sure everything will go well." The following Monday, Robert returned to the office to collect the compensation money. Anthony was there to sign the partnership dissolution papers. 200,000, as agreed, Michael said, handing over the check. "Thank you, and good luck with the dog business. You'll need it." After Robert left, Anthony shook his head. "What a negative person. Good riddance." "Yeah, but it worries me. He talked like he knew we'd have problems. Probably just envy." "Forget him, and let's focus on our work." On Tuesday, Michael was organizing the company paperwork when he got a call from journalist Fiona Adams. "Mr. Peterson, I know you didn't want to give an interview last time, but I'd like to make a new proposal." "What kind of proposal?" "An article about entrepreneurship and starting over. Your story of nearly going bankrupt and reinventing yourself is inspiring." "I'm not sure it's a good idea. Mr. Peterson, positive publicity could really help your new business, and the story of rescuing the little dog touched a lot of people in town. Michael thought for a moment. Maybe it was a good opportunity to promote the new service. All right, but I don't want to talk about my personal life or financial troubles. Perfect. We'll focus only on the new business and the issue of abandoned animals. The interview was scheduled for Thursday. Fiona was a woman in her 30s, very professional and friendly. Tell me how the idea to specialize in animal transport came about. Michael recounted the encounter with the abandoned dogs, rescuing Hope, and how that led him to meet Anthony. And what's the demand for this kind of service? Bigger than we imagined. Just this week we've had calls from breeders in 3 different cities asking for quotes. Would you say saving? Hope changed your life completely. She came at the moment I needed Hope the most, and she ended up being the solution to my problems herself. That's quite a story. May I meet her? Of course, she's right here in the office. Hope, now 4 months old, had grown quite a bit and developed a strong personality. She was affectionate with people she knew, but wary of strangers. Exactly how a good guard dog should be. She's beautiful and she seems very smart. She is. Every day she teaches me something new about loyalty and persistence. The article was published in the local paper on Friday and had a very positive response. Several people called to praise the initiative and offer help in spreading the word about the service. One call in particular stood out. It was from Mary Elizabeth Rocha, a veterinarian specializing in wildlife. Mr. Peterson, I read the article about your work. I'd like to discuss a partnership. What kind of partnership? I work in wildlife rescue and rehabilitation. Often I need to transport animals to specialized clinics or zoos. Would you be interested in adapting a vehicle for that kind of transport? Absolutely, but it's very different from transporting domestic dogs. Exactly. That's why we'd need to develop specific solutions, special cages, sedation systems, emergency equipment. Sounds challenging and promising. How about we meet to discuss the details? Michael scheduled the meeting for the following week. He was excited about expanding the services, but also concerned about the complexity it would bring. He talked to Anthony about the proposal. It's a great opportunity, Michael. Wildlife transport has very little competition and pays very well. But it also comes with much higher risks. What if something goes wrong during transport? That's why we need all the proper documentation and insurance, but it's worth looking into. Over the weekend, Michael visited Mary Elizabeth at the rehabilitation center she ran on the outskirts of town. It was an impressive facility, equipped for different types of animals. Our mission is to rescue injured or orphaned animals, treat them, and release them back into the wild, Mary Elizabeth explained as she showed him around. How many animals do you care for each month? On average, 15 to 20, but often we need to take them to New York or Miami for specialized surgeries. That's where your service would be crucial. Michael was impressed by the work being done there. It was clear Mary Elizabeth had a genuine passion for the cause. How do you sustain yourselves financially? Donations, some agreements with local towns, and occasionally we take in animals from zoos for rehabilitation. It's not easy, but we manage to keep the work going. And for transport, how much would you pay? It depends on the distance and complexity. For a trip from New York to Aspen with an animal needing special care, up to $3,000. Michael did the math in his head. Even just 2 trips a month would be a good supplement to their income. I'll talk to my partner and get back to you with an answer. On Monday, Michael was excited about the new business possibilities when he got a call that completely changed his mood. It was from a health inspector. Mr. Michael Peterson, this is John Paul from the Municipal Health Department. We've received a complaint about your company. What kind of complaint? They claim you're transporting animals without the proper license and without following mandatory health protocols. Michael felt his blood run cold. But all our documentation is in order. We need to conduct an inspection today. Can you be at your office by 2 this afternoon? Yes, I can, but may I ask who filed the complaint? This is confidential, sir. When he hung up, Michael immediately called Anthony. Anthony, we have a serious problem. The health inspectors are coming for an inspection today. Calm down, Michael. We have all the paperwork in order. What's the issue? What if they find something we don't know about? What if they shut us down? They won't shut anything down. We did everything right. At 2 in the afternoon, John Paul arrived with 2 more inspectors. He was a serious man, around 45 years old, who meticulously inspected the modified truck and all the documentation. Mr. Peterson, everything seems in order at first glance, but there are a few things that need adjusting. What things? First, you need a licensed veterinary technician on staff. Second, you require a specific certificate for interstate transport. And third, each compartment in the truck needs individual numbering. Are these difficult to resolve? The veterinary technician is simple. Just hire one. The interstate certificate takes about 30 days, and the compartment numbering is just a matter of painting. Michael sighed in relief. Can I keep operating while I make these changes? Only within New York State. For interstate trips, you'll need to wait for the certificate. After the inspectors left, Michael wondered who could have reported them. Very few people knew about the new business. He called Anthony and explained the requirements. Don't worry, Michael. I can recommend a vet friend for the technician. The rest is just red tape. Don't you think it's strange someone reported us right now? A little, but it could be a competitor upset about us entering the market. What competitor? As far as we know, almost no one offers this service in the area. Exactly. Maybe someone who was planning to enter the market and felt threatened. On Tuesday, Michael was arranging the compartment numbering when he got a call from Victor Reynolds. Michael, I heard you had trouble with the health inspectors. How did you hear about that? News travels fast in a small town. Everything resolved. Yes, just bureaucratic stuff. Good. It'd be a shame if you had to shut down so soon. Why would it be a shame for you, Victor? Well, we're fellow business owners. I always root for others' success. When he hung up, Michael felt uneasy. Victor's call had sounded more like probing than genuine concern. He shared his suspicions with Anthony. You think Victor was the one who reported us? Possible. He's shown a lot of interest in our company. Maybe he's trying to destabilize us. But why? He runs a big, successful business. Why would he care about our small operation? Michael, competition isn't about size, it's about potential. If we grow, we could bother a lot of people. On Wednesday, while waiting for the vet to sign the contract, Michael got an unexpected call from Robert, his former partner. Michael, we need to talk. It's urgent. What's wrong, Robert? Not over the phone. Can we meet at the cafe? On the square in an hour. Michael arrived curious and worried. Robert was visibly nervous. Michael, I have to tell you something, and you won't like it. Just say it, Robert. After I left the partnership, Victor Reynolds approached me. He wanted information about you. What kind of information? About your new partner, the company's plans, the truck modifications. Michael felt anger rising inside him. And you told him? Michael, he offered me 15 grand for the information. I just got 200,000 from you, but I have debts. Robert, you betrayed us. It wasn't betrayal. It was just general information. And you think the complaint to the health inspector was a coincidence? Robert lowered his head. He specifically asked about licenses and documentation. Michael stood up from the table, furious. Robert, you've always been a coward and an opportunist. Now I know why our company almost went under. Michael, wait. There's something else you need to know. What? Victor doesn't just want to hurt you. He's setting up his own animal transport operation. He's already bought 3 trucks and hired veterinarians. Michael felt like he'd been punched in the gut. How do you know this? Because he offered me a job to manage the operation. He wants to use all the information I gave him to copy exactly what you're doing. And you're going to accept? Michael, I need work, and he's offering a good salary. Robert, if you do this, I never want to see you again. Michael left the cafe shaken. He immediately called Anthony and told him about the conversation. This Victor is more dangerous than we thought, said Anthony. He doesn't just want to hurt us, he wants to steal our idea. What do we do now? First, we speed up our plans. Second, we document all our methods and processes. And third, we start expanding before he enters the market. But how? We're still fine-tuning our first operation. Michael, in business competition, hesitation means losing. We have to be faster and better than him. On Thursday, Anthony arrived at the office with a surprising proposal. Michael, I spoke with breeders from several states. There's demand for us to create a specialized animal transport network. A network? Isn't that too ambitious? It's exactly what we need to protect ourselves from competition. If Victor wants to enter the market, we'll take over everything before he can. But that requires a lot of investment and knowledge we don't have yet. That's why I'm proposing a partnership with other breeders. Each one contributes capital and expertise from their region. Michael was excited by the possibility, but also daunted by the scale of the challenge. How many people would be involved? Initially 5 breeders from New York, 3 from Miami, and 2 from Montana, each responsible for their own region. And what would I be responsible for? For the operation in upstate New York, and for the overall coordination of the network. How is overall coordination? Anthony, I barely know how to run a small business. Michael, you have something money can't buy: integrity and dedication. The other partners trust you because of your history with animals. What history? I saved 1 puppy, that's all. That's all. Michael, you risked your life to save an animal you didn't even know. You turned down a lucrative sale to stand by your principles. That's the reputation we need for our network. That night, Michael talked to Jennifer about the proposal. She had started sleeping at home a few times during the week, and they were slowly rebuilding trust. It's an incredible opportunity, Michael, but it's also a huge risk. I know if it fails, I could lose everything again. And if it succeeds, I'll have achieved something that really matters. And our family will have financial security like we've never had before. What does your heart say? It says to try, but my head says to be cautious. Emily, who had been listening from the living room, approached. Dad, can I give my opinion? Of course, sweetheart. Charles, you always taught me that in life it's better to try and fail than to never try and always wonder. That's true, I used to say that. Then why are you afraid to follow your own advice now? Michael smiled, proud of his daughters. Wisdom. You're right, I'll accept the proposal. On Friday, Michael and Anthony traveled to New York for a meeting with potential partners for the network. The gathering took place at the New York State Breeders Association headquarters in an elegant building in Soho. 8 experienced breeders were present, all with established businesses and solid reputations in the market. Michael felt intimidated by the caliber of the people there. Everyone, Anthony said, let me introduce Michael Peterson, who will be our operations coordinator. One of the breeders, Charles Montgomery, around 50 years old, looked at Michael skeptically. Anthony, no offense, but does this young man have the experience to coordinate an operation of this scale? Charles, Michael may not have experience with networks, but he has something more important: genuine passion for animal welfare. Another breeder, Helen Vaughan, spoke up. Passion is important, but we need technical expertise. This business could involve millions of dollars. Michael felt compelled to defend himself. Mrs. Vaughan, it's true I'm new to this industry, but in the last 3 months I've learned more about animals than in my entire life. And one thing I've learned is that they can sense when someone truly cares for them. That's touching, young man, but how do you plan to coordinate operations across 4 different states? With a lot of humility, a lot of study, and by relying on your experience. My role isn't to know more than you, it's to ensure everyone follows the same standards of quality and care. Charles seemed impressed by the response. I like your attitude, but let's get to the point. What guarantees can you offer that our operation will outperform the competition? Guarantees I can't give, but commitment, yes. A commitment that every animal will be treated as if it were my own. The meeting lasted 4 hours. They discussed investments, responsibilities, operational protocols, and expansion strategies. In the end, everyone agreed to give the network a chance. We'll do a 3-month trial, Helen decided. If the results are satisfactory, we'll formalize a long-term partnership. On the drive back to Aspen, Michael was both euphoric and terrified. Anthony, what have we just done? We've taken on a massive responsibility. We did what was necessary to grow before the competition overtakes us. But what if we can't deliver what we promised? We will. You'll see. Over the weekend, Michael worked tirelessly preparing operational protocols for the network. He studied animal transport regulations for all the involved states, researched specialized equipment suppliers, and created quality control spreadsheets. Hope stayed by his side in the office, sleeping next to him as he worked. Whenever Michael showed signs of stress, she rested her head on his lap, as if sensing he needed comfort. "You're my emotional consultant, aren't you, girl?" he'd say, stroking her golden fur. On Monday, news arrived that completely disrupted their plans. Mary Elizabeth called urgently. "Michael, we have a serious problem. One of the animals we were supposed to transport to New York next week escaped during a capture exercise." "Which animal?" "A young jaguar. She was being rehabilitated for release but isn't fully wild yet. She might approach people." "Is that dangerous?" "Very. If she attacks someone, she'll be euthanized, and our center could be shut down." "What can I do to help?" "I need you to help me organize search teams. You know the area well, you have adapted vehicles, and I trust your dedication." Michael didn't hesitate. "Of course I'll help. When do we start?" "Now, every hour that passes reduces the chances of finding her alive." Michael cancelled all his appointments for the week and devoted himself entirely to the search for the jaguar. Team organization, vehicle coordination, supply distribution, he naturally took the lead in the operation. For 3 days, they covered hundreds of miles of forest, followed tracks, and investigated sightings. Michael discovered he had a natural talent for leading teams in crisis situations. On Thursday, they finally found the jaguar. It was injured and weak, hidden in a cave 6 miles from the rehabilitation center. Mary Elizabeth managed to sedate it and bring it back safely. "Michael, I don't know how to thank you. Without your help, we probably would have lost her. It was my pleasure to help. And I learned a lot about teamwork." "Actually, you did much more than help. You led the entire operation." "Are you sure you just want to stick to animal transport?" "What do you mean? You have a talent for rescue coordination, wildlife management, field operations. Have you ever thought about expanding your services?" Michael grew thoughtful. It was a possibility he'd never considered. "It would be very different from what I'm doing now. It would be a natural evolution, and there's a lot of demand for this kind of specialized service." When Michael returned home on Friday, he was exhausted but fulfilled. He'd discovered skills he never knew he had, and found a passion that went beyond simple transport. He talked to Anthony about the experience. "It was incredible, Anthony. I've never felt as useful as I did these past 4 days. What if we incorporated this kind of service into our network? Rescue and rehabilitation? That would be much more complex." "Exactly, and that's why it would be our ultimate competitive edge. Victor can copy standard transport, but he won't be able to replicate rescue expertise." Michael realized Anthony was right. This was the chance to create something unique, something impossible to copy quickly. "We'd need a lot more investment and technical knowledge we don't have. Mary Elizabeth could be our technical partner, and the breeders in the network have connections with specialized wildlife veterinarians. Anthony, this would turn our company into something completely different from what we planned." "Michael, sometimes you have to be brave enough to dream bigger than planned." That night, Michael had trouble sleeping. Possibilities swirled in his head. Transport, network, rescue services, technical partnerships, expansion to other states. It was exciting and terrifying at the same time. Hope, sensing his restlessness, climbed onto the bed and lay beside him. Her calm presence helped Michael sort through his thoughts. "What do you think, girl? Should we dream big or play it safe?" As if understanding the question, Hope barked once and licked his face. Okay, dream big it is." On Saturday morning, Michael woke up determined. He called Anthony and they scheduled a meeting with Mary Elizabeth to discuss a broader partnership. "Mary Elizabeth, we want to propose something different. How about we create a center of excellence for wildlife management and transport? How would that work? We'd combine your technical expertise with our transport network and the breeders' connections. We'd offer everything from standard transport to complex rescue operations." Mary Elizabeth fell silent for a few minutes, clearly weighing the proposal. "It would be a huge leap for all of us, but it could also be revolutionary." "Exactly," said Anthony. Instead of competing in the same market as everyone else, we'd create a new one. What kind of investment would we need? Specialized equipment, adapted vehicles, technical training, proper facilities. I estimate between $800,000 to $1 million. Michael swallowed hard. It was a staggering amount. Do you have that kind of money, Anthony? Michael, for a project of this scale, we'd need multiple investors. But I know people interested in environmental impact projects. And the risks? Enormous, admitted Mary Elizabeth. But so are the benefits. We could save thousands of animals and create a model for the entire country. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. Michael left the meeting with his mind buzzing with ideas. This was the chance to create something truly meaningful, something that went beyond mere profit. But it was also a risk that could cost him everything he'd achieved. On Monday, while organizing documents for the investment proposal, Michael received a call that put him on alert. It was from Mark Johnson, the bank manager. Mr. Peterson, I need to inform you about a delicate situation. What kind of situation? Someone was here asking questions about your recent financial transactions. Questions? What kind of questions? About the source of the funds used to pay off your debt, about your new partners, about your expansion plans. And did you answer them? Of course not, but I thought it prudent to let you know. Who was asking these questions? A representative from Horizon Logistics said it was for a market analysis. Michael felt anger rising inside him. Victor was investigating his financial life now. Thank you for the heads up, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Peterson, as a friend, let me give you some advice. Be careful who you trust. Not everyone is rooting for your success. When the call ended, Michael immediately dialed Anthony. Anthony, Victor is looking into our financial situation at the bank. That's concerning. What does he want to find out? He's probably trying to dig up some irregularity to use against us. Or he wants to know exactly how much capital we have so he can plan how to attack. What do? We tighten security and speed up our plans. The more time we give him to organize, the more dangerous this gets. On Tuesday, Michael was preparing the presentation for potential investors when he received an unexpected visit. It was Emily, but this time accompanied by a young man he didn't recognize. Dad, this is Brian, my boyfriend. I wanted you two to meet. Brian was a well-dressed, polite young man in his early 20s. Nice to meet you, Mr. Peterson. Emily talks about you a lot. Nice to meet you, Brian. Please, have a seat. Emily seemed nervous. Dad, we actually came here for a specific reason. Brian is studying veterinary medicine and heard about your wildlife project. Oh? What semester are you in, Brian? 8th semester. And I'm interning at the New York Zoo. That's why I was so interested in what you're working on. And what do you think of the project? I think it's revolutionary, sir. But I also see some technical challenges that might not have been considered yet. Michael was intrigued. Any technical insight would be valuable. What kind of challenges? Mainly related to animal stress during transport and handling. Every species reacts differently to confinement and movement. Is that something we can solve? Absolutely, but it requires very specific protocols and highly trained staff. Brian has some interesting ideas, Dad. Why don't you hear him out? For the next hour, Brian explained concepts about reducing animal stress, sedation techniques for different species, and emergency protocols. Michael was impressed by the young man's knowledge. Brian, would you like to join our team? Me? But I'm just a student. A student with practical knowledge and passion for the subject. That's exactly what we need. Emily smiled, proud of both her boyfriend and her father. Dad, Brian could start as an intern, and then, after graduation, take on technical roles. Great idea. What do you think, Brian? It would be a dream, Mr. Peterson. I've always wanted to work in wildlife conservation. When the young couple left, Michael felt hopeful. Having Brian on the team would be crucial for developing the technical protocols. He called Mary Elizabeth and told her about the new team member. A veterinary student with zoo experience? Perfect. When can he start? He said he can start next month, working part-time. Great, that'll give us time to train him in our methods before the project expands. On Wednesday, Michael received a call that completely changed the course of events. It was from Helen Vaughan, one of the breeders in the network. "Michael, I need to tell you something urgent. Victor Reynolds approached me yesterday." "What do you mean?" "He wants to hire me to coordinate the animal transport operations for Horizon Logistics." Michael felt his stomach drop. "And what did you say?" "That I needed to think about it. But Michael, his offer is very tempting. High fixed salary, profit sharing, ready infrastructure." "Helen, but we have an agreement." "I know, Michael, that's why I'm telling you, but you need to know he's aware of every detail of our project." "How could he know the details?" "Someone gave him information, very specific details about our meeting, the planned investments, the partnership with Mary Elizabeth." Michael fell silent, processing the information. "Helen, how many people were at that meeting?" 10. "But Michael, there were also wait staff, receptionists, building security, so anyone could have overheard." "Exactly. But the level of detail Victor knew suggests someone recorded or took thorough notes." "What are you going to do?" "I'll turn down his offer and stay with us, but I have to warn you, he'll approach other breeders in the network too." "Thank you for telling me, Helen. Your loyalty means a lot." When he hung up, Michael realized he was in a much more serious business battle than he'd imagined. Victor wasn't just copying ideas. He was trying to recruit the entire team. He called Anthony and told him about the conversation. "This is very serious, Michael. If he manages to recruit half the breeders, our network collapses." "What do we do?" "We call all the other breeders today and tell them what's happening. United, we're stronger. And if some decide to accept Victor's offer, then we'll find out who our true partners are." They spent the afternoon calling every breeder in the network. Reactions varied. Some were outraged by Victor's actions, others showed interest in the offers they might receive, and some were undecided. Charles Montgomery was firm. "Michael, you can count on me. I don't do business with disloyal people." But Richard Sanders, a breeder from Montana, was honest about his doubts. "Folks, you're great people, but Victor has an established company. That's security you can't offer yet." By the end of the day, Michael tallied the results. 5 breeders confirmed their loyalty to the network. 2 showed interest in Victor's offers, and 1 was on the fence. "We've lost nearly half the team before even starting," Michael lamented. "We haven't lost," Anthony corrected. "We've discovered who our true partners are. Better to have 5 committed than 10 undecided." "But is the project still viable with just 5 regions?" It's viable, but we'll have to adjust the financial projections." On Thursday, Michael was reworking the financial calculations when he got an unexpected call from Mary Elizabeth. "Michael, I received a very interesting offer today." "Don't tell me Victor approached you too." "It wasn't Victor. It was a group of investors from New York. They want to fund our Excellence Center project." "How did they hear about the project?" "Through Helen Vaughan. She mentioned it to a veterinarian friend who mentioned it to a businessman, and it reached this group." "Are they trustworthy?" "Very. They're investors who specialize in environmental impact projects. They've already funded several sustainable ventures." "How much are they willing to invest?" $1.5 million in exchange for 30% of the company. Michael could hardly believe it. It was exactly what they needed to make the project a reality. "Any catch?" "They want a formal presentation on Monday, and they want guarantees that we have the technical and operational expertise." "Do we?" "With Brian on the team, and the breeders who stayed with us, yes, we do." "Then let's prepare the presentation of our lives." Over the weekend, Michael, Anthony, Mary Elizabeth, and Brian worked tirelessly preparing the pitch for the investors. They developed financial spreadsheets, technical protocols, implementation timelines, and growth projections. Hope stayed in the office the entire weekend, as if she knew something important was happening. Her calm presence helped keep the group focused during tense moments. "Have you noticed how calm she is when we're working?" Brian remarked. "It's like she understands the importance of what we're doing." "She's special," said Michael. "She's the one who started all this." By Sunday night, when they finally finished the presentation, everyone was exhausted but confident. I think we have a solid project, said Mary Elizabeth. More than solid, added Anthony. We have something revolutionary. On Monday, the group met at the investors' office on Fifth Avenue. There were 3 business people, Pamela, Oliver, Raymond Foster, and Jack Anderson, all with backgrounds in environmental projects. Everyone, said Pamela. We're interested in the project, but we need some assurances. What kind of assurances? Asked Michael. First, proof that you have the technical expertise to deliver what you promise. Second, proof of financial sustainability. And third, assurance that there won't be any legal or competitive issues. Mary Elizabeth presented the technical aspects, Brian discussed veterinary protocols, Anthony detailed the breeder network, and Michael explained the operational side. Impressive, remarked Raymond. You've really done your homework. What about competition risks? Asked Jack. Michael explained the situation with Victor Reynolds, leaving nothing out. I see, said Pamela. Aggressive competition is always a risk. But from what we see, you have technical advantages that are hard to replicate. Exactly, agreed Raymond. And you're first to market. After 2 hours of presentation and questions, the investors asked for time to deliberate. We'll give you an answer by Wednesday, Pamela promised. On Tuesday, while waiting for the investors' response, Michael got a call that alarmed him. It was from John Paul at the health department. Mr. Peterson, we've received another complaint about your company. What kind of complaint now? They claim you're operating without the proper environmental license for wildlife management, but we haven't even started working with wildlife yet. That's what I'll verify. I need to conduct another inspection tomorrow. John Paul, can I ask you something? Are these complaints always coming from the same person? I can't reveal the source, but let's just say someone is very interested in your operation. When he hung up, Michael realized Victor had escalated his sabotage. Now he was using government agencies to pressure the company. He's trying to bury us in red tape, Michael said to Anthony. It's a smart strategy. While we waste time dealing with bureaucracy, he moves forward with his plans. But it could also backfire. If it becomes clear that these are unfounded complaints, the authorities may start ignoring future reports. On Wednesday, the health inspection confirmed the company was operating within the law. John Paul even mentioned off the record that he was starting to suspect the motivation behind the complaints. Mr. Michael, between us, frequent complaints about the same company raise suspicions about the person making them. Thank you for your transparency, John Paul. I'm just doing my job. But be careful. Whoever is filing these complaints won't give up easily. By late Wednesday afternoon, Pamela called with the investor's answer. Michael, we've made a decision. We want to invest in the project. That's fantastic, but with a few conditions. First, we want an active board of directors with monthly meetings. Second, we want clear performance milestones to release the investment in stages. And third, we want veto power over decisions that could jeopardize the project. Those are reasonable conditions. Accepted. Great. You can come sign the contract on Friday. When he shared the news with Jennifer and Emily, they were overjoyed. Dad, you did it, Emily said, hugging him. I haven't done anything yet, sweetheart. Now the hard work begins. Michael, Jennifer said, I'm so proud of you. In 6 months, you went from near bankruptcy to leading a groundbreaking project. And it all started with Hope falling into the river. Maybe she didn't fall, Emily suggested. Maybe she chose you. On Friday, during the contract signing with the investors, Michael felt like he was starting a new life. The project that had begun with rescuing a puppy was now turning into $1.5 million company. Congratulations, Michael, Pamela said after they signed all the documents. Now you have the resources to do something truly special. And the responsibility not to waste this opportunity, Raymond added. You can count on us, Michael promised. At the end of the day, when they returned to Aspen, Michael stopped the car near the trail by the river where he'd found Hope. She sat in the passenger seat, watching the scenery through the window. Remember this place, girl? This is where it all began. As if she understood, Hope barked and placed her paw on his arm. You know what's amazing? 6 months ago, I thought my life was over. Business failing, family falling apart, future uncertain. And you showed up right when I needed Hope the most. Hope looked at him with those intelligent golden eyes, as if she knew exactly what he was saying. Now we have a project that can help thousands of animals like you, and a team that truly cares. It's all going to work out, right? The answer came in the form of a loving lick on his face. On Saturday morning, Michael woke up early and found a surprise in the backyard. Jennifer was playing with Hope, tossing a ball for her to fetch. "Good morning," he said, walking over. "Good morning." Hope was restless, so I decided to give her some attention. "Since when did you get so attached to Hope?" "Since I realized she saved our marriage." "How so?" "Michael, you changed after she arrived. You became more affectionate, more present, more responsible. And it was through her that our family reconnected. I never thought of it that way. Sometimes we need to care for something vulnerable to rediscover our own humanity." Just then, Emily appeared at the back door. "Dad, Mom, Brian's here." He came to help with the veterinary protocols. Michael smiled. Having the family together again and working on their dream project was more than he could have hoped for 6 months ago. "Let's get to work then. We have a lot to do." All weekend, the house turned into a planning hub. Michael coordinating operations, Anthony organizing partnerships, Mary Elizabeth developing technical protocols, Brian researching veterinary procedures, and even Jennifer and Emily helping with research and document organization. Hope moved among everyone, as if she were the official mascot of the project. "Have you noticed how she interacts with each person differently?" Brian observed. "With Michael, she's protective. With Mary Elizabeth, she's curious. With me, she's playful. With Emily, she's affectionate. And with Jennifer, she's respectful. Dogs are experts at reading people," Mary Elizabeth explained. "Hope probably understands the group's dynamics better than we do." On Monday, the new company's activities officially began, named the National Wildlife Transport and Management Network. Michael took over as General Coordinator, based in Aspen. The first major challenge arrived on Tuesday. It was a complex rescue. A family of capuchin monkeys had taken refuge on the roof of a school in Flagstaff, causing panic among students and teachers. "Michael," Mary Elizabeth said, "this is the kind of operation that will define our reputation. If it goes well, we'll be recognized as leaders. If it goes wrong, it won't go wrong. We have a prepared team." The operation involved 4 professionals: Mary Elizabeth as technical leader, Brian as veterinary assistant, Michael coordinating, logistics, and an urban wildlife specialist borrowed from the New York Zoo. "The strategy is simple," Mary Elizabeth explained during the briefing. "We carefully sedate each animal, perform a basic clinical exam, and relocate them to a suitable reserve." "What if they resist sedation?" Brian asked. "That's why you're here. Your experience with dosages will be crucial." The operation lasted 6 hours. The monkeys were clever and wary, requiring great patience from the team. But by the end of the day, all 5 animals were safely captured and taken to a reserve 50 kilometers from the city. "Perfect," Mary Elizabeth celebrated. "Not a single scratch on the animals or the team. And most importantly, the school can return to normal operations," Michael added. News of the successful operation spread quickly. By Wednesday, they had already received 3 similar requests from other cities. "Everyone," Anthony said. "I think we underestimated the demand for this kind of service. It's a completely untapped market," Mary Elizabeth agreed. "Almost no one offers professional urban wildlife rescue. Then let's take advantage of this while we can," Michael decided. On Thursday, Michael received a call that left him uneasy. It was from Helen Vaughan. "Michael, I need to tell you something strange." "What happened, Helen?" "Victor Reynolds approached me again. This time not to offer a job but to propose a partnership." "What kind of partnership?" "He wants me to convince you all to sell the wildlife operation to Horizon Logistics. In exchange, he promises to keep the entire team and expand nationally." "And what did you say?" "That I'd pass on the offer but doubted you'd accept." "You were right, Helen, we're not interested." "I figured. But Michael, he seemed very confident you'd eventually agree." "Why would he think that?" "I don't know. But the way he spoke gave me chills, like he knows something we don't. When he hung up, Michael felt unsettled. What could Victor know that they didn't? He talked to Anthony about the call. "He's trying to plant doubts in our heads," Anthony said. "It's a psychological tactic. Or he really knows something. Maybe he's planning some kind of move. Michael, we can't live in paranoia. Let's stay focused on work and handle problems as they come." On Friday, the problem arrived. Michael was in his office when he received a call from Pamela, the investor. "Michael, we need to talk urgently. Can you come to New York today?" "Did something happen?" "I'd rather discuss it in person, it's better." Pamela's tone left Michael extremely worried. He called Anthony and Mary Elizabeth, and the three of them immediately traveled to New York. At the investor's office, Pamela was accompanied by Richard, and a man Michael didn't know. "Everyone, this is Dr. Edward Martin, our lawyer. He has some concerning news." "What kind of news?" asked Anthony. Dr. Martin opened a folder and pulled out some documents. "Yesterday, we received a legal notice from Horizon Logistics. They claim you're using methods and processes they developed." "That's absurd," protested Mary Elizabeth. "We built everything from scratch." "I believe you. But they have documentation proving prior registration of some processes." "How could they have registered processes we created?" asked Michael. "That's what we need to find out. They attached copies of protocols very similar to the ones you presented to us." Michael felt his blood run cold. Somehow Victor had gained access to the protocols they had developed. "Dr. Martin, does this jeopardize our project?" "Not necessarily, but we need to prove you developed the processes independently, and that could take months." "Months we don't have," murmured Anthony. "Exactly," said Pamela, "and in the meantime, we're forced to suspend investments until this is resolved." Michael felt like he'd been punched in the gut. The entire project was threatened by something they didn't even understand. "Is there any way to speed this up?" asked Mary Elizabeth. "Yes," replied Dr. Martin. "If we can prove Horizon Logistics acted in bad faith, we could turn this around quickly." "How would we prove bad faith?" "By showing they accessed your protocols improperly, but that requires solid evidence." On the drive back to Aspen, the group was demoralized. "How did they get our protocols?" asked Mary Elizabeth. "Someone on our team leaked them," said Anthony reluctantly. "Impossible," protested Michael. "Everyone with access is completely trustworthy." "Michael, think carefully. Who had access to the full protocols?" Michael mentally listed himself, Anthony, Mary Elizabeth, Brian, the network's founders, the investors. That's a lot of people. Any one of them could have leaked it. "Or someone hacked our computers," suggested Mary Elizabeth. "Or recorded our conversations," added Anthony. On Saturday, Michael decided to investigate on his own. He reviewed all emails and shared files, looking for signs of unauthorized access. That's when he found something strange. The system logs showed accesses to the protocols at times when no one on the team was working. "Anthony, someone accessed our files early Thursday morning at 3 a.m. Who has the system passwords?" "Just the three of us and Brian." "Was Brian working at that hour?" "I'll call him." When he called Brian, the conversation was revealing. "Brian, did you access our system early Thursday morning?" "No, Mr. Michael. Why?" "There are records of access at 3 a.m. "That's odd. Does anyone else have the passwords?" "Just the core team." "Wait, Emily saw you typing the password a few times." "Yes, she was next to me when I worked last Sunday. But why?" Michael's heart sank. Could his own daughter have sabotaged the project? "Brian, where was Emily early Thursday morning?" "At home, asleep. Why all these questions?" "I need to check something." Note: the translation strictly follows the provided cultural mappings and maintains the original tone, style, and structure, while adapting the text naturally for the target audience. "I'll call you later." Michael hung up the phone, his mind in turmoil. He didn't want to believe Emily could have betrayed them, but the signs were troubling. He decided to talk to her directly. When he got home, he found Emily studying in the living room, with Hope lying at her feet. "Emily, can I talk to you?" "Of course, Dad. What's with that look?" "Sweetheart, I need to ask you a tough question. Did you tell anyone about our work protocols?" No, Dad. Why are you asking? Someone leaked confidential information about our project, and only people very close to us had access. Emily turned pale. Dad, are you implying that I'm not implying anything. I'm asking you directly. Dad, how could you think that of me? Emily, someone accessed our system late Thursday night using passwords only the team knows, and so you automatically suspect your own daughter. You've seen Brian typing in the passwords multiple times. Dad, I can't believe this. Do you really think I'd sabotage my own family's project? Emily ran out of the room, visibly hurt. Hope followed her, clearly sensing the conflict. Michael stood alone, feeling awful. Maybe he was being paranoid, but he had to explore every possibility. He called Anthony and told him about the conversation. Michael, you might have made a big mistake accusing your daughter. I didn't accuse her, I just asked. To a teenager, asking is the same as accusing. Anthony, I have to protect our project, and I get that, but maybe you're looking for the culprit in the wrong place. Then where should I look? How about we check if our computers were hacked remotely? How do we do that? I know a digital security expert. He can analyze our systems. On Sunday, the security expert, Marcus Rivers, spent the day examining all the team's computers. I found the issue, he announced in the evening. There's spyware installed on Mary Elizabeth's laptop. Spyware? Mary Elizabeth asked. How is that possible? It was likely installed through a malicious email or an infected flash drive. The software records everything typed and sends it to an external server. How long has it been active? Michael asked. According to the logs, at least 3 weeks. 3 weeks? That's exactly when we finalized the main protocols, Anthony recalled. And who has access to the server receiving the information? Mary Elizabeth asked. I'll trace it, but these services are usually anonymous. Marcus, Michael said, is it possible to find out who installed this software? If it was done in person, no, but if it was through email, I can try to track the source. Marcus worked for 2 more hours analyzing Mary Elizabeth's emails. Found it, he finally said. There's a suspicious email from 3 weeks ago. It claimed to be from a scientific journal inviting Mary Elizabeth to publish an article. I remember that email, Mary Elizabeth said. I downloaded an attached form. That attachment contained the spyware, and the email was sent from an IP I traced back to a tech company hired by Horizon Logistics. Victor, Michael exclaimed, he planted a spy in our computers. Now we have proof of bad faith, Anthony said. We can sue him and reverse this whole situation. Michael felt relieved and guilty at the same time, relieved to discover the real source of the leak, and guilty for suspecting his own daughter. I need to apologize to Emily, he said. And I need to replace all my equipment, Mary Elizabeth added. On Monday, Dr. Martin filed a lawsuit against Horizon Logistics for corporate espionage. The evidence was solid. Spyware, IP tracking, identical. Protocols logged afterward. With this evidence, their out-of-court notice loses all validity, explained Dr. Edward Martin, and we can even seek compensation for moral and material damages. How long will it take to resolve? Asked Pamela. With such clear evidence, maybe a few weeks. They'll try to settle to avoid a bigger scandal. And can the investments be resumed? Asked Michael. As soon as we get a favorable preliminary decision, yes. Michael returned home relieved, but still needed to resolve the issue with Emily. He found her in her room studying with Hope by her side. Emily, can I come in? If it's to make more accusations, no. It's to apologize. She looked at him in surprise. We found out how our protocols were stolen. It wasn't a leak. It was digital espionage. Someone planted spyware on Mary, Elizabeth's computer. And you automatically thought your teenage daughter did it, she said sarcastically. Emily, I was desperate. The entire project was at risk. Dad, I'm your daughter. Even if you were desperate, you should have trusted me. You're right. Forgive me. Emily stayed silent for a moment, petting Hope. Dad, what hurt me most wasn't you suspecting me. It was you not trusting me enough to tell me what was happening. What do you mean? If you'd told me about the leak, I could have helped investigate. Instead, you treated me like a suspect. Michael realized she was right. Next time, I'll trust you more. And next time, I'll prove I deserve that trust. They hugged, and Hope took the opportunity to climb onto the bed and join the group embrace. On Tuesday, Dr. Martin called with good news. Michael, Horizon. Logistics wants to settle. What kind of settlement? They'll withdraw the notice, publicly acknowledge you as the true creators of the protocols, and pay $50,000 in moral damages. And in return, you agree not to publicly disclose the espionage details. Is it a fair deal? Very fair. You're free to move forward with the project and still get compensation. I accept. On Wednesday, with the legal issue resolved, Pamela called to authorize the release of investments. Michael, you can resume operations as normal. The first transfer of $500,000 will be made today. Pamela, I don't know how to thank you for your patience. You've proven you're serious professionals. Incidents like this are part of the business world. With the funds released, the team could finally implement the full project. They bought new specialized vehicles, state-of-the-art equipment, and set up a modern operations center. On Thursday, they received their first major assignment, a complex rescue involving a family of coatis that had invaded a mall in Colorado Springs. This operation will involve 6 adults and 3 babies, explained Mary Elizabeth. We'll need perfect coordination. Full team, asked Michael. Yes, you, me, Brian, and 2 external specialists, and we're taking Hope too. Hope? Why? Dogs can detect hidden animals we might miss, and she's already shown a special intuition for this work. The operation took a full day, but was a complete success. All animals were safely captured and relocated to a proper reserve. You're really good at what you do, remarked the mall manager. I'll recommend you to other businesses. By Friday, their schedule was full for the next 3 weeks. Team, said Anthony, I think we underestimated the demand. We'll need to hire more people and expand to other regions faster than we planned, added Mary Elizabeth. But carefully, considered Michael. Growing too fast could compromise quality. Over the weekend, Michael gathered the family to celebrate the project's success. Jennifer had prepared a special dinner, and even Brian was present. A toast, said Michael, raising his glass, to what started with the rescue of a little pup and became a company that can help thousands of animals. To Hope, said Emily, who taught us that sometimes we need to save someone to discover who we really are. Does family, said Jennifer, who found each other again through the love of animals. And to second chances, added Brian, which everyone deserves, whether people or animals. Hope, as if understanding she was the center of attention, barked once and began wagging her tail, making everyone laugh. That night, Michael went for a walk with Hope along the trail where it had all begun. It was a clear night, with bright stars in the mountain region sky. You know, girl, 6 months ago I thought my life was over. Business failing, family broken, a bleak future, and you showed up like a miracle. Hope walked beside him, attentive to every word. Now we have a thriving business, a reunited family and work that truly makes a difference, all because you needed to be saved that day. They stopped by the riverbank, right where Michael had jumped in to rescue her. Or was it really you who saved me? In response, Hope moved closer and placed her paw on his knee, looking at him with those golden eyes full of intelligence and affection. You're right. We saved each other. At the start of the following week, Michael received an unexpected call. It was from Victor Reynolds. Michael, I'd like to talk in person. We have nothing to discuss, Victor. I think we do. Can I come by today? What for? To apologize and propose a truce. Michael was surprised by Victor's tone. Truce? Michael, I admit I went too far with the competition. The market is big enough for everyone. And the espionage? The false reports? My mistake, and I'm here to make it right. Michael discussed the call with Anthony. It could be another trap, warned Anthony. Or maybe he's actually learned something. What do you want to do? I'll meet him. But with witnesses present. That Tuesday afternoon, Victor arrived at the office accompanied only by his lawyer. He seemed genuinely remorseful. Michael, first I want to formally apologize. My behavior was inappropriate and harmful. Thank you for the apology. Second, I'd like to propose a partnership. What kind of partnership? You specialize in wildlife, we have expertise in traditional logistics. Why not join forces instead of competing? Michael was surprised by the offer. How would this partnership work? Each company keeps its specialty, but we collaborate when needed. You call us for large transports, we call you for specialized operations. It's an interesting proposal, Michael admitted, and there's room for everyone to grow. The market is expanding quickly. Michael asked for time to consider the proposal with his team. A partnership with Victor could be beneficial, said Mary Elizabeth. They have infrastructure that would take us years to develop. But can we trust him? Asked Brian. People can change, considered Anthony. And business is business. If the partnership benefits both, it could work. I'll accept the proposal, Michael decided, but with very clear contracts and legal safeguards. On Thursday, they signed a limited partnership agreement between the two companies. Victor publicly committed to respecting each company's specialization. Michael, said Victor after signing the contract, I need to tell you something. What? The truth is, I've always admired your determination. When I heard you'd saved your company and created something innovative, I was envious. So, that's why all the sabotage. Exactly, but then I realized I was wasting energy trying to tear you down instead of improving my own business. And what changed? My daughter. She's 12 and loves animals. When I told her about your work, she was thrilled. Then she asked me why I was getting in the way instead of helping. Michael smiled. Children had a unique way of putting things into perspective. Your daughter is wise. She really is, and I hope our kids can be proud of their father's work. That weekend, Michael threw a party to celebrate the company's first 6 months. He invited the whole team, their families, partner breeders, and even the investors. The party was held in his backyard, with Hope mingling among the guests like the perfect hostess. Everyone, Michael said during the toast, when I rescued Hope from that river, I thought I was just saving one life. I had no idea I was saving all of ours. To Hope, everyone cheered in unison. The little dog, as if knowing she was being honored, barked happily and ran in circles, making everyone laugh. She's still a puppy, remarked Mary Elizabeth. A wise puppy, added Brian. Like all puppies when they're loved, said Emily, stroking Hope's head. That night, after everyone had left, Michael sat in the backyard with Hope by his side. The house was messy but happy. Jennifer was in the kitchen washing dishes, Emily was in her room talking to Brian, and everything finally felt right. You know what's most amazing about this whole story, he said to Hope. It's not that we built a successful company, it's that we built a real family. Hope looked up at him with those golden eyes that seemed to understand every word. And it all started because you decided to fall into a river on a cold winter morning. She nuzzled her head into his lap, sighing contentedly. Or maybe you didn't fall. Maybe you chose to be found by me. Just then, Jennifer stepped out of the kitchen and joined them in the backyard. Talking to Hope again? She asked, sitting beside her husband. She's a great listener. And a great advisor, too. She's the one who taught us that sometimes we need to care for something bigger than ourselves to find our own way. Jennifer, you're right. Taking care of her taught me to care for everything around me, the company, our family, the team. And she taught us that real love isn't about possession, it's about care. Emily appeared at the back door. Can I join the philosophical talk with Hope? Of course, sweetheart. Come here. The three of them sat in the backyard, with Hope at the center, quietly watching the stars. Dad, Emily said after a few minutes, what do you think would have happened if you hadn't saved Hope that day? I probably would have lost the company. Our family would have fallen apart completely, and I'd be stuck in some ordinary job, bitter and full of regrets. And me, Jennifer asked, you'd be alone in a rented apartment wondering where our marriage went wrong. And I'd be torn between you two, not knowing how to handle the separation, Emily added. It's incredible how one little life can change so many others, Jennifer reflected. It wasn't just a little life, Michael corrected. It was a life with purpose. Hope, as if knowing she was being praised, stood up and licked each of them in turn. She agrees with you, Emily laughed. She always agrees with me. That's one of the things I love most about her. The following Monday, Michael was in the office organizing his weekly schedule when he received a call that would once again change the course of their lives. It was Pamela, the investor. "Michael, we have a very interesting proposal for you." "What kind of proposal?" "An international environmental conservation group wants to learn about your work. They're interested in replicating your model in other Latin American countries." "Really, that's incredible. But there's a condition. They want a full presentation of your operational model, including results, protocols, and cost analysis." "When?" "Next week in New York." "Pamela, this could mean an expansion we never even dreamed of." "Exactly. But it also means much greater responsibilities." Michael hung up, thrilled, and immediately called the whole team. Within an hour, everyone was gathered in the office. "Everyone," he said, "we have the opportunity to take our model to other countries." "How so?" asked Mary Elizabeth. Michael told them about Pamela's call and the international group's proposal. "This means animals in multiple countries could benefit from what we've developed here," said Brian, excited. "And it means we've started something that could have a continental impact," added Anthony. "But it also means we can't afford any mistakes now," Mary Elizabeth pointed out. "If our model is replicated internationally, any failure on our part could affect projects in multiple countries. That's why we're going to prepare the best presentation of our lives," Michael decided. All week, the team worked tirelessly, compiling data, statistics, success stories, and financial analyses. Every detail was reviewed multiple times. Hope followed the whole process, wandering around the office as if she knew something important was happening. "Is she coming with us to the presentation?" Brian asked. "Absolutely," Michael said. "She's a fundamental part of our story." On Friday, the day before the presentation, Michael was nervous but confident. They had prepared flawless materials and had real success stories to share. "Tomorrow could change our lives forever," he told Jennifer that night. "It already has," she replied. "No matter what happens tomorrow, you've already built something special." "You're right, but it would be amazing to help animals in other countries too. It'll all work out. I'm sure of it." On Saturday morning, the team gathered early for the trip to New York. Michael, Anthony, Mary Elizabeth, Brian, and of course Hope. "Everyone," Michael said in the car. "No matter what happens today, I want you to know I'm proud of each of you." "We should be thanking you," said Mary Elizabeth. "You gave us the chance to do something truly meaningful. And you taught us that business can be about more than just profit," Brian added. The presentation took place in the same building where they had first met the investors, but this time the room was full. Representatives from NGOs in Mexico, Argentina, Chile, and Colombia, as well as biologists and veterinary experts. "Everyone," Pamela said as she made introductions, "let me present the team from the National Wildlife Transport and Management Network and their official mascot, Hope." Michael began by telling the story of Hope's rescue and how it had led to the creation of the company. The audience was visibly moved by the narrative. Mary Elizabeth presented the technical aspects, Brian explained the veterinary protocols, and Anthony detailed the network structure. "Impressive," commented Charles Montgomery, the representative from Argentina. "You've created a complete and replicable model." "And economically viable," added Helen Vaughan from Chile. "How long would it take to implement this model in other countries?" asked Richard Sanders from Mexico. "That depends on local infrastructure," Michael replied, "but we estimate between 6 months to a year." "And what kind of support would you offer?" asked Annabeth from Colombia. "Full team training, technology transfer, and operational support during the first year," explained Anthony. At the end of the presentation, the international group asked for time to deliberate. Michael and the team waited in an adjoining room, anxious. "I think we did a good job," said Mary Elizabeth. "More than good," agreed Brian. "It was excellent." Hope was lying on Michael's lap, calm as always. Her presence soothed the whole team. After 2 hours, Pamela returned with a smile on her face. "Everyone, they want to make a formal proposal." "What kind of proposal?" asked Michael. "Creation of a Latin American network, with implementation in 4 countries in the first year. Initial investment of $2 million. $2 million? Repeated Anthony, incredulous. "But there are important conditions," Pamela continued. You'll need to move to New York to coordinate the international operation, and you'll have to give up majority control of the Brazilian company. Michael fell silent, processing the information. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, but it also meant radical changes. Can we have time to think? Until Monday. They need an answer to start preparations. On the drive back to Aspen, the team was torn between excitement and apprehension. Michael, said Mary Elizabeth, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. We could save thousands of animals. But it also means abandoning everything we've built here, Brian pointed out, and it means much greater pressure, Anthony added. International operations are complex. What does your heart say? Asked Mary Elizabeth. Michael looked at Hope, who was sleeping peacefully on the seat beside him. My heart says we started this to help animals, not to build an empire. But we could help so many more animals with international resources, Brian argued. That's true, but we could also lose the essence of who we are. That night, Michael talked at length with Jennifer and Emily about the proposal. This is a decision that affects the whole family, said Jennifer. I can't make it for you. Mom's right, Emily agreed. But can I give my opinion? Of course, sweetheart. Dad, you always taught me that true success is when you can sleep peacefully, knowing you did the right thing. And what do you think is the right thing? I think the right thing is what makes you truly happy, not what makes you richer or more famous. Emily, you're getting too wise for your age. I learned from Hope. She's happy with little. Food, love, a family that adores her. Maybe that's what success is. On Sunday, Michael spent the day walking with Hope on the trail where it all began. He needed clarity to make his decision. What do you think, girl? Should we accept the offer? Hope ran ahead, occasionally stopping to wait for him. She seemed perfectly happy just running free through the woods. You're right. Happiness isn't about size or reach. It's about purpose and connection. When he got home, Michael had made up his mind. On Monday, he called Pamela with his answer. Pamela, we've decided to decline the offer. Can you explain why? Because our model works precisely because it's local, personal, connected to the community. If we expand too fast, we could lose that. I understand. But won't you regret missing this opportunity? Pamela, 6 months ago I almost lost everything chasing growth opportunities without considering the human cost. I've learned some things are more important than expansion. Like what? Like waking up every day excited to work, like having a team that's family, like being able to look in the mirror and like the person I see. Michael, I admire your choice. Many businessmen wouldn't have that wisdom. I learned from an 8-month-old dog that true happiness is simple. Having a purpose, people who love us, and the freedom to be who we are. When he told the team about his decision, the reactions were mixed. Michael, said Mary Elizabeth, are you sure? It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm sure. We'll keep growing, but at our own pace, staying true to our values. And if other similar opportunities come up, asked Brian, we'll evaluate each one, but we'll always remember that growth without purpose is just empty ambition. Anthony smiled. I knew you'd make the right choice. How did you know? Because you're the guy who risked his life to save a stray dog. That kind of person doesn't trade values for money. In the following months, the company continued to grow, organically and sustainably. They expanded to 2 more regions in New York, hired new specialists, and developed even more efficient protocols. Most importantly, they kept their family-like atmosphere and their commitment to animal welfare, just as they had defined from the start. Hope, now a year old, had grown into a magnificent adult dog. She joined field operations whenever possible, had become something of a company mascot, and remained Michael's official emotional advisor. One July morning, exactly a year after the rescue, Michael returned to the river where it had all begun. Hope immediately ran to the water, but this time just to play. A year ago, right here, my life changed completely, he said, watching Hope splash in the water. I thought I was saving you, but really, you were saving me. Hope stepped out, gave the water and approached, wagging her tail with that signature happy dog grin. You know what I learned this year? That sometimes the best things in life come disguised as problems. You seemed like a problem, a wet, lost, ownerless dog, but you were the solution to all my problems. She placed her paw on his knee, as she always did when she wanted attention. And you know what else I learned? That real success isn't about how much money you make or how big your company is. It's about how many lives you can touch in a positive way. Just then, Michael's phone rang. It was Mary Elizabeth. "Michael, we have an emergency. A family of capybaras has invaded the center of a town in the countryside. The situation is tense and we need to act fast. I'm on my way. Assemble the full team." When he hung up, he looked at Hope. "Another mission, girl? Ready to save another family?" Hope barked once and ran toward the car, as if to say, "Always ready." On the way to the operation, Michael reflected on the past year. He had saved dozens of animals, reunited his family, built a thriving business, and found a real purpose in life. But more than anything, he had learned that sometimes we need to be vulnerable enough to help someone in need, to discover our own strength. "Thank you, Hope," he murmured, glancing in the rearview mirror at the dog who had changed his life forever. The capybara operation turned out to be more complex than any previous rescue. When they arrived in Hot Springs, they found chaos. 8 adult capybaras had settled in the town square, causing panic among residents and tourists. "How did they even get here?" asked Brian, watching the animals lounging comfortably around the fountain. "They probably came from the town reservoir," explained Mary Elizabeth. "With the drought, they came down looking for water and ended up in the square. And now they don't want to leave," Michael added. "Here, they have water, grass, and no one bothers them." The mayor of the city, Martin Scott, was visibly nervous. "Everyone, we need to solve this today. The winter festival starts tomorrow, and we have thousands of tourists arriving." "Mayor," said Mary Elizabeth calmly, "capturing 8 adult capybaras isn't simple. They're large, strong animals and can be aggressive if they feel threatened." "How much time do you need?" "At least 2 days to do it safely," replied Michael. 2 days? Impossible. The festival can't be cancelled." The political pressure was creating a tense atmosphere. Michael realized they'd need to find a creative solution. "What if we don't relocate them immediately?" he suggested. "What do you mean?" asked the mayor. "What if we create a temporary, protected area in the square during the festival? The capybaras become a tourist attraction, and after the event we relocate them calmly." "Turn an animal invasion into a tourist attraction?" the mayor doubted. "Why not?" said Brian, excited by the idea. "Many people have never seen capybaras up close. It could be educational." "And safe?" asked the mayor. "With proper fencing and guidance from our team, yes," Mary Elizabeth assured. It took 3 hours to convince the mayor, but he finally agreed to the proposal. They spent the rest of the day setting up a temporary fence around the fountain and preparing educational material about capybaras. "That was creative," Mary Elizabeth commented as they worked. "Sometimes the best solution isn't removing the problem, but turning it into an opportunity," Michael replied. Hope moved among the capybaras with impressive ease. The large rodents showed no fear of her, and she seemed to understand she should keep a respectful distance. "She's a natural diplomat," Brian observed. The next day, the temporary capybara exhibit was an absolute success. Hundreds of tourists gathered around the fence, taking photos and listening to the team's explanations about the animals' behavior and habitat. "I never thought an animal invasion could become a tourist attraction," the mayor remarked, visibly pleased with the positive response. "It's all a matter of perspective," Michael said. "Problems can become opportunities if we look at them creatively." After 3 days of the festival, it was time to relocate the capybaras. The operation was carried out overnight, using mild sedatives and careful transport. All were taken to a natural reservoir 20 miles from the city. "Mission accomplished," Mary Elizabeth said as they released the last animal. "And we learned something new about urban wildlife management," Brian added. "More importantly, we showed that conservation and tourism can go hand in hand," Michael concluded. On the way back, Michael received a call that left him worried. It was from Robert, his former business partner. "Michael, I need to talk to you urgently." "What's wrong now, Robert?" "I can't talk over the phone." Can we meet tonight? Robert, we've already said everything there was to say. This is different. It's about Victor Reynolds. I found out something you need to know. Michael sighed. He'd hoped the problems with Victor were over after the partnership agreement. Fine. Let's meet at the cafe on the square at 8. Tonight. When he told Anthony about the call, he seemed concerned. Michael, it could be another trap. Robert already betrayed us once. I know. But if he really found out something important about Victor, I need to know. I'll go with you. No, Robert said he wants to talk to me alone. If I bring you, he might not say anything. At 8 that night, Michael arrived at the cafe and found Robert visibly nervous. He was drinking coffee and smoking. Odd, since he'd quit years ago. Thanks for coming, Michael. Just say it, Robert. What did you find out about Victor? First, I need to tell you something. I accepted the job at Horizon Logistics. Michael felt anger rising. Robert, if you called me here to brag, that's not it. Let me finish. I took the job, but I found out Victor doesn't just want to compete with you. He wants to destroy you completely. What do you mean? He's setting up an operation to sabotage you for good. No more complaints or spying, something much worse. What kind of sabotage? He's planning an accident during one of your operations, something that would publicly discredit you and ruin your reputation. Michael felt his blood run cold. What kind of accident? I don't know the details, but I overheard him talking to someone about making sure a rescue goes wrong at the right time and place. Robert, this is serious. Do you have proof? No. That's why I'm telling you in person. I don't want to leave a trail. Why are you telling me this? You work for him now. Robert lowered his head. Because I realized I made the wrong choice. Victor is unscrupulous, and you, despite all our issues, have always been honest. What do you want in return for this information? Nothing. I just wanted to clear my conscience. Michael fell silent, processing the information. Robert, do you have any idea when this accident might happen? Soon. Victor's been very anxious, making secret calls, holding closed door meetings. Something's being planned. And you can't find out more details? I'll try, but I have to be careful. If he suspects I'm leaking information, he could fire me. Or worse. When Michael got home, he was deeply troubled. He told Jennifer about his conversation with Robert. Do you think he's telling the truth? She asked. Unfortunately, I think so. Victor has shown he's capable of anything. Michael, you all need to be careful. If he's planning sabotage, it could be dangerous. I know, I'll talk to the team tomorrow. That night, Michael barely slept. He kept imagining what kind of sabotage Victor might be planning. An animal injured during transport? An accident that hurt someone on the team? The possibilities were terrifying. Hope, sensing his restlessness, climbed onto the bed and lay beside him. Her calm presence helped Michael relax a little. What would you do in my place, girl? He murmured, stroking her golden fur. As always, the answer came in the form of unconditional affection. The next morning, Michael gathered the whole team in the office and told them about Robert's warning. This is very serious, said Mary Elizabeth. If someone sabotages our operations, it could result in injuries to animals or people. We need to double down on safety, said Brian. And maybe turn down high-risk operations until this threat passes, suggested Anthony. We can't stop working because of threats, Michael protested. That's exactly what Victor wants. But we can't ignore the warning either, Mary Elizabeth reasoned. Here's what we'll do. We'll keep operating, but with stricter safety protocols, and we'll stay alert for anything suspicious. Define anything suspicious, Brian requested. Strangers at operation sites, tampered equipment, clients asking unnecessary questions, Michael listed. And if something actually goes wrong, Anthony asked, we document everything. Photos, videos, witnesses. If it's sabotage, we'll have proof. Over the next 2 weeks, the team operated on high alert. Every operation was planned with extra care. Every piece of equipment was checked before use. Every site was inspected before work began. But nothing suspicious happened. The operations ran smoothly, the animals were rescued without issue, and Michael began to wonder if Robert had exaggerated the threat. That's when they received a request that seemed perfect for sabotage: the rescue of an injured jaguar on a remote farm, far from witnesses, with difficult access. "This operation has trap written all over it," said Anthony after analyzing the request. "But if it's real, an injured jaguar needs urgent help," argued Mary Elizabeth. "And if it's a trap, we'll be walking right into it," countered Brian. Michael was torn. The operation had all the signs of a possible setup, but it could also be a legitimate and urgent rescue. "Let's investigate before deciding," he finally said. "I'll go to the farm for a preliminary assessment." "Alone?" asked Mary Elizabeth. "With Brian. If it's a trap, I won't bring the whole team into danger. And if it's real, the two of you can't handle an injured jaguar alone," warned Anthony. "If it's real, we'll come back and organize the full operation." The next morning, Michael and Brian set off for the farm located near Brookfield. It was an isolated place surrounded by dense forest, accessible only by a dirt road. "Perfect spot for an ambush," Brian remarked as they drove. "Or the perfect spot for a jaguar to hide," Michael countered. When they arrived at the farm, they were greeted by the owner, Joseph Fisher, a man in his 60s who seemed genuinely concerned. "Doctor, thank goodness you came. The jaguar's been hiding in a ravine for 3 days. It can't move properly." "How was it injured?" asked Brian. "I'm not sure. I found it like this, with its hind leg bleeding. Could have been barbed wire or a fight with another animal." Michael carefully observed the area. Everything seemed legitimate. Jaguar tracks, blood trails, the farmer showing real knowledge of the animal's behavior. "Where exactly is it?" he asked. "I'll show you." Joseph led them along a forest trail to a ravine where, indeed, a female jaguar lay in a natural hollow. The animal was visibly weak. "It's real," Brian murmured. "She really is injured and in urgent need of help," Michael added. "Can you get her out?" Joseph asked. "We'll need the full team. It's a complex operation." "How long before you return?" "About 4 hours to get equipment and personnel." "All right. I'll keep an eye on her until you're back." On the drive back, Michael felt more confident about the operation. "It seems legitimate after all," Brian said. "Yeah, maybe Robert exaggerated the threat. Or maybe Victor changed his plans." When they reached the office, they were met with a surprise. Robert was waiting, visibly agitated. "Michael, thank goodness you're back. I found out the details of Victor's plan." "What details?" "The jaguar operation is real, but Victor wants you to handle it alone, without official veterinary support. If anything goes wrong, you'll be held responsible for operating without the proper permits." Michael was confused. "But we have all the necessary permits." "For transport, yes, but not for field surgery on wildlife, and from what I heard, the jaguar will need emergency surgery." "How does Victor know that when even we don't?" "Because he's the one who injured the jaguar." Michael felt as if he'd been punched. "What do you mean?" "Victor hired someone to injure the jaguar slightly, creating a situation that would force you to perform unlicensed field surgery. If you save the animal, you're sued for illegal veterinary practice. If you don't, you're sued for negligence." "That's monstrous," Brian said, horrified. "And very clever," Anthony admitted. "Any choice we make hurts us." "Not any choice," Michael said thoughtfully. "There's a third option." "What?" they all asked. "We called the environmental police and reported Victor for mistreating wild animals. But we don't have proof," Mary Elizabeth reminded them. "We have Robert as a witness." "Victor will deny everything," Robert said, "and my word against his isn't worth much." "Then we'll get proof," Michael decided. "How?" "By going back to the farm with recording equipment. If Victor is behind this, he or someone working for him will show up to check if the plan is working." "Michael, that's too dangerous," Jennifer warned, having just arrived at the office during the conversation. "More dangerous than letting Victor keep sabotaging operations and hurting animals?" "She's right," Mary Elizabeth said. "We need to end this once and for all." "I'll go with you," Robert offered. "Why?" Michael asked, suspicious. "Because I need to make up for the harm I've done, and because I know the thugs Victor hired for this." "Robert," Anthony said, "if you're lying about anything, it could cost someone their life. I'm not lying. I swear on my mother's memory. Michael looked into Robert's eyes and saw something he hadn't seen in a long time. Genuine, honesty and remorse. Fine, you're coming with us. But if you try to sabotage us, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. They spent the rest of the day planning the operation. They would return to the farm with hidden recording equipment, treat the Jaguar properly, and document any sabotage attempts. What about Hope? Brian asked. Do we take her? No, Michael decided. It's too dangerous. She stays home with Jennifer. Dad, Emily said, having just arrived from school, can I make a suggestion? Of course, sweetheart. Take Hope, but not for the operation. Keep her in the car as an alarm. If anyone approaches, she'll bark and warn you. That's not a bad idea, Mary Elizabeth agreed. And she'll be safe inside the car, Brian added. All right, Hope comes, but she stays in the car. The next morning, the team set out for the farm with rescue, recording, and first aid equipment. Hope rode in the back seat, as if she knew she had an important mission. When they arrived, Jack greeted them with relief. Doctor, thank goodness you're back. The Jaguar is worse, barely moving. Let's assess her first, Mary Elizabeth said. They discreetly set up the recording equipment and went to where the Jaguar was hidden. The animal did seem weak. She needs emergency surgery, Mary Elizabeth diagnosed after a preliminary exam. Here? Jack asked. We have no choice. If we try to move her in this state, she might not survive transport. That's when Brian noticed something odd. Michael, that wound isn't from barbed wire or a fight. It's too clean, too precise. Like it was made by a knife? Michael whispered. Exactly. At that moment, Hope started barking in the car. She had seen something the team hadn't noticed. Everyone, Robert murmured. I think we've got company. Through the trees, Michael spotted two men sneaking closer. One was talking on his phone. It's happening, he muttered. Let's proceed with the surgery and see what happens. Mary Elizabeth began sedating the Jaguar while Brian prepared the surgical tools. Michael kept the recording equipment running. Then one of the men stepped out of the woods and approached them. Good afternoon, folks. I'm an inspector from the Environmental Department. Do you have a permit to perform surgery on wild animals? We have a permit for rescue and transport, Michael replied calmly. But not for surgery. I'll have to fine you and shut this down. That's fine, Michael said. Go ahead and fine us, but we're not stopping the surgery. This animal could die. If you continue, it's a crime against wildlife. And if we stop, it's negligence. I'd rather be sued for trying to save a life than for letting it die. The supposed inspector turned on his phone and whispered to someone. Michael noticed Robert was getting nervous. Michael, Robert murmured, this guy isn't a real inspector. He's one of Victor's henchmen. Are you sure? Absolutely. I worked with him at Horizon Logistics. At that moment, Mary Elizabeth finished the surgery. Done, the wound is clean and stitched. She'll recover well. Great job, Michael said loudly, knowing everything was being recorded. The fake inspector approached again. You're under arrest for illegal practice of veterinary medicine. Actually, said a voice behind him, you're the one under arrest. Everyone turned and saw two wildlife officers approaching. How did you get here? Michael asked, surprised. We received an anonymous tip about a suspicious operation, the sergeant explained, and we arrived just in time to see this man posing as an inspector. The fake inspector tried to flee but was quickly restrained by the officers. Actually, the sergeant said, we've been investigating a sabotage scheme against animal rescue companies. You were set up. How did you find out? Brian asked. Months of investigation and some very well-documented anonymous tips. The sergeant looked at Robert. Are you Robert Mitchell? I am. Were you the one who made the reports? Yes. Thank you. Your information was crucial in dismantling the scheme. When things calmed down, Michael processed what had happened. Robert, you reported Victor, before even warning us. I reported it as soon as I discovered the scheme. But since police investigations take time, I decided to warn you too. Why didn't you tell us earlier? Because I wasn't sure the police would act in time. The Jaguar, now recovered from anesthesia, was transported to a rehabilitation center where it could fully heal. The wound, confirmed by official veterinarians, had been deliberately inflicted with a sharp instrument. It's a miracle it didn't get infected, the lead vet remarked. And a miracle you got there in time, the officer added. On the way back, the team was relieved, but still processing everything. I can't believe Victor went so far as to harm an animal to sabotage us, Mary Elizabeth said. Desperate people do desperate things, Brian reflected. The question is, what happens now? Anthony asked. Now Victor will face criminal charges for animal cruelty and racketeering, Michael explained, and our company is free to work in peace. What about Robert? Brian asked. Michael looked at his former partner, who sat quietly in the back seat. Robert, why did you do it? Why help us in the end? Because I realized I'd chosen the wrong side. Victor is a bad person. Someone who hurts innocent animals to hurt competitors. At least you all genuinely care about animal welfare. And now? Will you come back to work with us? No. I'll find another job, far from here. I need to start over, make peace with myself. Robert, Michael said, despite everything, thank you for doing the right thing in the end. It was the least I could do. When they got home, Hope ran to greet Michael, jumping and barking joyfully as if she knew the mission had succeeded. You were the perfect sentry today, girl, he said, stroking her fur. Without your barks, we might not have noticed those men in the woods. Jennifer and Emily were eager to hear how the operation went. Did everything go okay? Jennifer asked. Better than okay. We settled things with Victor once and for all. Michael recounted every detail, from uncovering the sabotage to the arrest of the fake inspector. Dad, said Emily, weren't you scared? I was terrified, but some things are more important than fear. Like what? Like doing what's right. Like protecting innocent animals. Like defending our family and our business. And now you'll be able to work in peace? Asked Jennifer. Finally, yes. That night, Michael went for a walk with Hope along the trail where it all began. It was a clear night with a full moon lighting the path. You know, girl, I learned something important today, he said as they walked. Sometimes doing the right thing means taking risks, but the risk of doing nothing is always greater. Hope ran ahead, occasionally stopping to wait for him or sniff something interesting. And I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about who stands by you when things get tough. When they reached the river where they first met, Michael sat on a rock and Hope lay down beside him. A year and a half ago, I was a broken man. No hope, no united family, no purpose. Today I have a thriving business, a reunited family, and work that saves lives every day. Hope rested her head on his lap, as she always did when she sensed he was deep in thought. And it all started because you decided to fall into this river on a cold morning. He stayed silent for a few minutes, listening to the sounds of the night and feeling Hope's calm presence. You know what else? I don't think you fell in by accident. I think you knew exactly what you were doing. In response, Hope licked his hand and sighed contentedly. In the months that followed, the business grew even more. With Victor out of the picture, he'd been arrested, and his company's operations were suspended. There was no more unfair competition or sabotage. New contracts came in weekly. The team had to expand. They hired 2 more veterinarians, an urban wildlife biologist, and 3 support technicians. We're becoming a big company, Anthony remarked during a meeting. Big in size, but I hope we don't lose our heart, Michael replied. How do we make sure of that? Asked Mary Elizabeth. By sticking to our values. Every animal we rescue is treated as if they're unique and special. Every operation is planned with the same care as our very first. And never forgetting where we came from, added Brian, glancing at Hope, who was peacefully sleeping on a bed near the meeting table. The company also began receiving official recognition. They were invited to speak at universities, attend veterinary conferences, and even received an honorable mention from the State Environmental Department. You've become the gold standard in urban wildlife rescue, the secretary said during the award ceremony. Our secret is simple, Michael replied in his speech. We treat every animal as if they're part of our family. But the recognition that moved Michael the most came from an unexpected place. A letter written by an 8-year-old girl, the daughter of one of their veterinarians. Dear Mr. Peterson, my dad told me you saved lots of little animals. Wanted you to know that when I grow up, I want to work with you. My dad said you started all this by saving a little dog. I want to save animals too. Thank you for taking care of them. Love, Anna Beth. I think this is the most important letter we've ever received, Michael said, showing it to the team. Why? Asked Brian. Because it shows we're inspiring the next generation. Anna, Beth will grow up knowing that caring for animals matters. And maybe one day she'll save even more lives than we have. That's what I love most about our work, said Mary Elizabeth. We don't just save animals, we teach people about compassion and responsibility. At the end of that year, Michael decided to organize a gathering for the entire team and their families. It would be in his backyard like the first party, but this time with many more people. It'll be the Festival of Hope, he announced to Emily. Why Festival of Hope? Because she's the one who brought all these people into our lives. The party was a success. Over 50 people attended. Employees, partners, animal breeders, collaborating veterinarians, and even some of the rescued animals who had become mascots for the families that adopted them. Hope, now nearly 2 years old, moved among everyone, like the perfect hostess. She had grown a lot, but kept the affectionate, sociable personality she'd had since she was a puppy. She's in her element, Jennifer remarked, watching Hope play with the children. She's always been a social dog, Michael agreed. I think she loves being surrounded by people who adore animals. During the toast, Michael gave an emotional speech. Everyone, 2 years ago, I was a lost man, directionless, hopeless. Today I'm surrounded by the most incredible people I know, doing work that fulfills me completely. And it all started with rescuing one small life that seemed insignificant. He looked at Hope, who sat beside him, attentive as if she understood every word. Hope taught me that no life is insignificant, that every living being deserves a chance, and that sometimes to save others, we first have to let ourselves be saved. To Hope, everyone cheered, raising their glasses. The little dog, as if knowing she was being honored, barked once and wagged her tail furiously, drawing laughter and applause from the crowd. Later, as the party wound down and guests began to leave, Michael sat on the porch with his family. Hope lay in the middle of the group, surrounded by affection. Dad, Emily said, are you happy? Very happy, sweetheart. Why do you ask? Because sometimes I think about how different our lives would be if you hadn't saved Hope. It would be very different. I'd probably be divorced, our business would have failed, and I'd be stuck in some ordinary job, bitter and full of regrets. And me? Jennifer asked. You'd be alone wondering where our marriage went wrong, questioning whether you could ever trust anyone again. And I'd be torn between the two of you, Emily added, suffering from the separation and losing faith in true love. But that didn't happen, Michael said. And do you know why? Because you had the courage to jump into an icy river to save a life, Jennifer replied. Not just that, because all of us had the courage to open our hearts to the unconditional love Hope offered. And because we learned that family is about taking care of each other, Emily added. Hope stood up and went to each of them, receiving affection and giving gentle licks, as if sealing that moment of family unity. You know what else I learned? Michael said. That happiness isn't a destination, it's a choice we make every day. What do you mean? Emily asked. I can choose to complain about problems or be grateful for solutions. I can focus on what I've lost or celebrate what I've gained. I can live in fear of the future or with gratitude for the present. And what do you choose? Jennifer asked. I choose gratitude. Every single day. At that moment, as if the universe wanted to agree with him, Hope rolled onto her back in the middle of the group, paws in the air in a gesture of complete trust. She's saying she agrees with you, Emily laughed. Or she's saying she wants belly rubs, Jennifer chuckled. Or she's saying this is the safest place in the world for her, Michael said, stroking the dog's belly. In the following months, the company continued to grow and establish itself. They opened a second headquarters in Colorado Springs, expanded their services to include environmental education, and launched a responsible adoption program for rescued animals. Hope officially became the company's mascot, appearing in promotional materials and participating in educational events at schools. She's the perfect ambassador, remarked Mary Elizabeth during an event at an elementary school. The children connect with her immediately. And she loves the attention, added Brian, watching Hope patiently interact with dozens of curious children. During one of these school visits, a 6-year-old girl asked a question that deeply touched Michael. "Uncle, why do you save little animals? Why do you think we save them, Mary Claire? Because you're nice?" "It's not just that. We save them because they can't save themselves, and because when we care for something smaller and weaker than us, we become better people." "How so?" "When you take care of your stuffed animal, how does it make you feel? Happy and important." "Exactly. Caring makes us feel good. And the more we care, the more we learn about love." The girl grew thoughtful for a moment. "So you save little animals to learn about love?" "That's right, Mary Claire. You're very smart." Hope, who had been sitting beside Michael during the conversation, moved closer to the girl and rested her head on her lap as if confirming his words. "She's so pretty," the girl exclaimed. "Can I hug her?" "Of course you can." As Mary Claire hugged Hope, Michael realized that moment perfectly captured everything they had built, a place where love, care, and compassion came together naturally. By the end of that year, Michael received an unexpected invitation. A veterinary university asked him to give a lecture on social entrepreneurship. "Social entrepreneurship?" he asked Mary Elizabeth. "What's that?" "It's when you create a business that generates profit, but also benefits society." "Is that what we do?" "Exactly. You built a profitable company that also protects animals, educates people, and inspires other entrepreneurs." "I never thought of it that way. Maybe it's time to start. Your story could inspire a lot of people." Michael accepted the invitation and spent weeks preparing his talk. He wanted to share not just the company's journey, but also the personal transformation it had brought him. The university auditorium was packed when he took the stage. Veterinary students, professors, business owners, and even some journalists filled the room. "Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Peterson, and 3 years ago I was a bankrupt businessman with a broken family and no prospects. Today I'm here to tell you how a 3-month-old puppy completely changed my life." For an hour, Michael recounted the entire journey, from rescuing Hope to building the company, including the challenges, sabotage, and victories. "What impresses me most about your story," one student said during the Q&A, "is how you've kept human values intact while growing a large business." "It's simple," Michael replied. "I never forgot where I came from. I never forgot that it all started with an act of compassion for a helpless animal. If I lost that compassion, I'd lose the heart of who we are." "What advice would you give someone who wants to follow a similar path?" a professor asked. "First, find a purpose bigger than yourself. Second, surround yourself with people who share your values. And third, never underestimate the transformative power of a small act of kindness." "And Hope? Where is she now?" a student asked. Michael smiled and gestured toward the back of the auditorium. Hope came running in, causing a wave of oohs and ahs from the audience. "She's here with us as always, because without her none of this would have happened." Hope climbed onto the stage and sat beside Michael, calm and majestic, as if she knew she was the center of attention. "You can pet her after the talk," Michael said. "She loves meeting new people." After the presentation, while dozens of students lined up to meet Hope, Michael spoke with some professors about potential partnerships between the university and his company. "We could create an internship program," suggested Dr. Charles Montgomery, the course coordinator. "Our students would gain hands-on experience and you'd get qualified help." "Excellent idea. What if we also offered regular talks on urban wildlife?" "Perfect. Let's formalize this partnership." On the drive back home, Michael was thrilled. "How did it go?" asked Anthony, who had stayed behind to manage the business. "Better than I expected. We secured a partnership with the university and several collaboration proposals." "And Hope?" "She was the star of the night. I think she got more affection than I did." Hope, who was sleeping in the back seat after all the evening's excitement, opened one eye as if she knew they were talking about her. "She deserves it," said Mary Elizabeth. "After all, she's the one who started all this." In the following months, the university partnership opened new horizons. Interns brought energy and fresh ideas, while the company provided valuable hands-on experience. One intern, Peter Henry, stood out in particular. He was a 21-year-old young man, incredibly dedicated and genuinely passionate about wildlife. "Professor Michael," he said during a rescue operation, "can I make a suggestion?" "Of course, Peter, what's on your mind?" "How about creating a YouTube channel to document our rescues? It would be educational and help spread awareness of your work." "Interesting, but we don't have the technical know-how for that. I can help. I study communications too, and I have filming equipment." "What do you all think?" Michael asked the team. "It could be a great way to educate more people," said Mary Elizabeth. "And show that our work is serious and professional," added Brian. "Let's try it. But with one condition, the focus must always be educational, never sensationalist." The channel's first video was about rescuing a family of possums that had settled in a home's attic. Peter filmed the entire operation, explaining the procedures and showing the team's care for the animals. "Everyone," Michael said, "during the recording, it's important to understand these animals aren't pests. They're part of the urban ecosystem and deserve respect." The video was published with the title, "Compassionate Rescue: How to Remove Possums Without Harming Them." Within a week, it had over 10,000 views and hundreds of positive comments. "I think we've found a new way to educate people," Peter said, excited by the results. "And show that conservation can be interesting and accessible," Michael added. Hope quickly became the star of the videos. Her calm, loving presence charmed viewers, who began asking about her in the comments. "She should have her own segment on the channel," Peter suggested. "What kind of segment?" asked Brian. "Hope's tips. She could teach basic pet care." "But she's a dog, she can't talk," Mary Elizabeth laughed. "She doesn't need to," Michael explains, and she demonstrates. It'd be educational and adorable at the same time. The idea was a huge success. The Hope's Tips segment became the channel's most popular, with Hope teaching about brushing, exercise, socialization, and other canine care topics. "Tarik's a natural teacher," commented Michael after recording an episode about the importance of socialization. "She seems to understand exactly what needs to be done." "Animals are excellent non-verbal communicators," explained Mary Elizabeth. "Hope expresses calm and confidence, which are precisely the qualities we want to teach." The channel grew quickly. In 6 months, it had over 100,000 subscribers, and the videos were being used in schools as educational material. "You've become digital influencers," joked Emily during a family dinner. "I'd rather think we've become digital educators," corrected Michael. "What's the difference?" asked Jennifer. "Influencers sell products. Educators transform minds." "And what are you selling?" insisted Emily. "Compassion, responsibility, love for animals, things that are priceless." That night, Michael was editing a new video when Hope approached and rested her head on his lap. "Tired of being famous?" he asked, stroking her fur. Hope sighed and closed her eyes, content with the affection. "I get tired sometimes too, but I remind myself that every person who watches our videos might become more compassionate toward animals, and that makes it all worth it." In response, Hope licked his hand and settled in closer beside him. "You understand, don't you? You know all of this is to help others like you." By the end of that year, Michael was invited to appear on a television program about social entrepreneurship. It was a live audience show with nationwide broadcast. "This will be our biggest exposure." "Yet," said Peter, excited. "And our biggest responsibility," Michael reflected. "Millions of people will be watching." "Is Hope coming along?" asked Brian. "Of course. She's a fundamental part of our story." "What if she gets nervous with all those people?" worried Mary Elizabeth. "Hope never gets nervous around people. She loves being the center of attention." The show was recorded in a studio in New York, with an audience of 300. Michael was nervous, but Hope seemed completely at ease. "Everyone," said the host, Mark Oliver, "today we have with us Michael Peterson, the entrepreneur who turned the rescue of a little dog into a social impact business. And of course, we also have the famous Hope." The audience cheered enthusiastically. When Hope appeared on stage, she greeted the host gracefully and sat beside Michael. "Michael, tell us how it all began." For 20 minutes, Michael recounted the full story, from the day of the rescue to the present moment. The audience was visibly moved. "It's incredible how one small life can change so many others," remarked the host. "That's what I try to teach people," Michael replied. "Every act of compassion creates ripples that spread far beyond what we imagine. And Hope, what's her role in all this?" "She's our lead teacher. She taught me about loyalty, unconditional love, and living in the present. Qualities I try to practice every day." "Can I pet her?" "Of course, she loves meeting new people." When the host leaned down to pet Hope, she immediately placed her paw on his arm and licked his face, sparking laughter and applause from the audience. "She really is special," said the host. "She seems to understand everything happening around her." "She does. Animals are far more emotionally intelligent than we realize." After the show, Michael received hundreds of messages from people wanting to learn about the company's work or interested in adopting rescued animals. "I think we planted a lot of seeds today," he told the team. "Seeds that will grow into compassion and responsibility," added Mary Elizabeth. "And maybe inspire others to start similar projects," said Brian. In the following months, the impact of the TV program became evident. The company received invitations to give lectures in dozens of cities. The YouTube channel gained thousands of new subscribers, and many people started animal protection projects inspired by Michael and Hope's story. "And we're turning into a movement," Peter remarked during a team meeting. "A movement of what?" Anthony asked. "Of people who believe small acts of compassion can change the world." "I like that definition," said Michael. "Compassion in action. Movement. And Hope is our official ambassador," added Mary Elizabeth. Hope, who was lying in the office during the meeting, lifted her head as if she knew they were talking about her, making everyone laugh. "She approves," chuckled Brian. It was around this time that Michael received an invitation that would change the course of their lives once again. It was from a publisher interested in releasing a book about his story. "A book?" Jennifer asked when he shared the news at home. "About our journey with Hope. They think it could inspire many people." "Are you going to accept?" Emily asked. "Only if Hope co-authors it," Michael joked. "Dad, I'm serious. Will you do it?" "I think so. If our story can inspire even one person to be more compassionate, it's worth it." Writing the book was an emotional and challenging process. Michael relived every moment of their journey, from the initial despair to their recent achievements. "It's amazing how our lives have changed," he remarked to Jennifer while writing. "Not changed, transformed. Change is superficial. Transformation is deep." "You're right. We're not the same people we were 3 years ago. We're better versions of ourselves." Hope accompanied the entire writing process, lying beside Michael as he typed. Sometimes she seemed to supervise the work, as if making sure her story was told correctly. "She's a very demanding editor," Michael joked. "Every time I write something she doesn't like, she sighs. Or maybe she's just happy to be by." "Your side," Jennifer suggested. "Probably. She's always been my best work companion." The book was released 6 months later, titled Hope, How a Little Dog Changed My Life and Can Change Yours. The launch event was held at the same bookstore, where Michael used to buy business management books during his tough times. "It's symbolic to be here," he told the team accompanying him. "Why?" Brian asked. "Because this is where I searched for answers on how to save my company. I never imagined the answer would come in the form of a lost little dog." The book signing was a success. Hundreds of people attended, many bringing their own dogs to meet Hope. "First time I've seen a dog signing books," a journalist joked. "She's the real author," Michael replied. "I just wrote the story she lived." Hope, ever sociable, received affection from everyone and patiently posed for photos. She seemed to understand it was a special occasion. An elderly woman, around 70, approached with an older golden retriever. "Mr. Michael, I wanted to thank you in person." "Thank me for what, Mrs. Eleanor, and this is Beethoven. We read about you in the paper and decided to adopt an older dog no one wanted. It's been a year, and our lives have completely changed." "How so?" "I was living alone, depressed, with no purpose. Beethoven gave me a reason to wake up every day. Now we have a routine, we take walks, he shows me affection. I'm happy again." Michael was moved by her words. "Mrs. Eleanor, you're the one who saved Beethoven, not us. But it was your story that inspired us. If it weren't for Hope, we'd never have met Beethoven." At that moment, Hope approached Beethoven, and the two greeted each other calmly, as if they were old friends. "Even they liked each other," laughed Mrs. Eleanor. "Hope has a special talent for making friends," said Michael. Later, when the book signing ended, Michael reflected on all the testimonials he had heard. "How many people said our story inspired them to adopt animals?" he asked Emily. "At least 15. And several others said they started volunteering at shelters. It's amazing how one story can multiply good. Dad, are you proud of what you've built?" "I am, sweetheart. But mostly I feel grateful." "Grateful for what?" "For finding my purpose. For having a close-knit family, for working with incredible people, and for being chosen by Hope to be her human." Hearing her name, Hope walked over and rested her head on Michael's lap. "She agrees with you," said Emily. "She always agrees with me. It's one of the things I love most about her." In the following months, the book became a bestseller. Michael was invited to dozens of interviews, talks, and events, but he always made sure to bring Hope, believing she was the true star of the story. "You two have become a famous duo," remarked Mary Elizabeth. "Famous for a good reason," Michael replied. "We're using this visibility to promote responsible adoption and animal protection. And it's working. Adoptions in the region have increased by 30% since the book's release. That's the best outcome we could hope for." It was during one of these talks that Michael met Helen Rogers, a 65-year-old businesswoman who had just retired. "Mr. Michael," she said after the event, "your story inspired me to start my own project." "What kind of project?" "An animal-assisted therapy program for seniors. Many of my friends live alone and feel depressed. I think animal companionship could help." "That's a wonderful idea. Can I help in any way?" "Actually, I'd like to propose a partnership. You have expertise with animals, and I have connections in senior care. Together, we could create something special. Let's talk. I think this could really work." The partnership with Helen led to the Ageless Love Project, connecting lonely seniors with animals in need of homes. It was an immediate success, fostering deep emotional bonds and improving everyone's quality of life. "It's incredible how animals and seniors connect," Helen observed during one of the group's first meetings. "They both have time to give each other attention," Michael explained, "and they both appreciate affection and companionship." Hope became the project's lead therapist, visiting nursing homes and senior centers. Her presence always brought smiles and moments of joy. "She has a special gift for this," a nurse commented. "She seems to know exactly who needs extra love." "She's always been like that," Michael said. "Even as a puppy, she showed natural empathy." The project grew quickly and began spreading to other cities. Helen and Michael were invited to present their model at geriatric conferences and active aging forums. "You've created something revolutionary," said Dr. Paul Montgomery, a geriatric specialist. "Animal-assisted therapy is proven effective, but I've never seen it implemented so systematically and compassionately." "The secret is not treating it as therapy," Helen explained. "We treat it as family. Seniors and animals become family to each other. And family cares, protects, loves unconditionally," Michael added. That evening at home, Michael talked to Hope about all the projects they had built together. "You know, girl, when I saved you from that river, I thought I was just being compassionate. I had no idea I was starting a chain of compassion that would spread to so many places." Hope looked at him intently, as she always did when he spoke to her. "Now we have the rescue company, the educational channel, the therapy program for seniors, the book inspiring people. It's so much more than I ever dreamed." She moved closer and placed her paw on his knee in a gesture that had become her trademark. "But you know what's most amazing? It's not the size of what we've built. It's that every project keeps the essence of that first day, love for animals and compassion for people." In response, Hope licked his hand and settled beside him. "You understand, don't you? You understand, this is all about love. Love that began when I saw you struggling against that river's current. At the start of the 4th year since the rescue, Michael decided to organize a big celebration. It would be an event for the whole community, celebrating not just the company's anniversary, but most of all, the transformative power of compassion. "Let's do it in the city park," suggested Emily. "An outdoor event, with space for people and animals." "Great idea. What if we call it the Festival of Hope?" Jennifer proposed. "Perfect," Michael agreed. "A festival celebrating all the hopes that have become reality." The Festival of Hope was planned with the participation of the whole team and the support of the city. There would be educational booths, rescue demonstrations, an adoption fair, talks on animal care, and plenty of space for people and animals to interact. "This will be our biggest event yet," said Mary Elizabeth during a planning meeting. "And our best chance to spread our message," added Brian. "What message exactly?" Peter asked. "That each of us can make a difference," Michael replied. "That small acts of compassion create big changes." Hope followed all the preparations, as if she knew something special was being planned. On the day of the festival, she woke up especially excited. "I think she knows it's her day," Emily remarked. "It's always her day," Michael laughed. "But today is special." The festival was an absolute success. Over 1,000 people attended, bringing their families and pets. There were activities for all ages and interests. Hope moved through the event like a true celebrity, receiving affection from children, adults, and seniors alike. She seemed in her element, social and loving as ever. "She's loving all this attention," Brian observed. "She's always been a social dog," Michael said. "She loves being around people who care for animals." During his speech on the main stage, Michael gave an emotional recap of the 4 years that had passed. "Everyone, when I found hope in that river, I was a lost man. My business was failing, my family was broken, my future seemed bleak. Today I stand here surrounded by hundreds of people who share our passion for animals, celebrating everything we've built together." The crowd cheered enthusiastically. "But the most important thing isn't what we've built. It's what we've learned. We've learned that no life is too small to matter, that compassion is contagious, that when we care for each other, we all grow." Hope stood beside him on stage, calm and majestic, as if she knew she was the heart of all these celebrations. "And we've learned that sometimes we're saved by the ones we think we're saving. Hope saved me far more than I ever saved her." At that moment, as if to respond, Hope barked once, sparking laughter and even louder applause from the crowd. "She agrees with me," Michael chuckled. At the end of the festival, as people began to leave, Michael sat on the grass in the park with his entire family. Hope was at the center of the group, surrounded by affection. "Dad," said Emily, "did you achieve all your dreams?" "I achieved dreams I didn't even know I had, sweetheart." "What do you mean?" 4 years ago, my dreams were small. Save the company, keep the family together, have financial stability. Today our dreams are big. Inspire compassion, educate about animal protection, create a better world for all living beings. "And do you think we're succeeding?" asked Jennifer. "I think we are. Every person who adopted an animal after hearing our story, every child who learned about compassion from our videos, every senior who found companionship through our project, these are small victories that add up to a big transformation." Hope stood up and went to each family member, receiving pets and giving affectionate licks in return. "She's thanking all of us," said Emily, "or reminding us that family is about being together," suggested Jennifer. "Or saying this is the happiest moment of her life," said Michael. When they got home at the end of that special day, Michael went out for one last walk with Hope. It was a tradition they had kept since day one. Whenever something important happened, they walked together on the trail where they had first met. "What a day, huh, girl?" he said as they walked under the starlight. Hope ran ahead, sniffing familiar scents and occasionally turning back to make sure Michael was following. "You know what moves me the most today? It's not seeing how much our company has grown or how many people we've influenced. It's realizing how happy you are." When they reached the river where it had all begun, Michael sat on the same rock, where he used to reflect. Hope lay down beside him as she always did. 4 years ago, you were fighting to survive in this icy water. Today, you're a fulfilled, loved dog with purpose. It's the most beautiful transformation I've ever witnessed. Hope rested her head in his lap, sighing with contentment. And you know what I've learned from watching your journey? Happiness isn't about where we end up, but who we walk with. And I couldn't have chosen a better walking companion. They stayed there for an hour, simply enjoying the peace of the night and each other's company. It was a moment of pure gratitude and serenity. "Thank you, Hope," Michael murmured. "Thank you for changing my life. Thank you for teaching me about unconditional love. Thank you for showing me it's worth fighting for those we love." In one final response, Hope licked his face and snuggled even closer, as if to say the feeling was mutual. That night, Michael fell asleep knowing he had found his place in the world, not just as a successful businessman, but as someone who made a real difference in the lives of animals and people. And it had all started with a simple dive into an icy river to save a life that had seemed lost. The end. Now tell us what you thought of the story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave a sincere comment below. Do you believe small acts of compassion can transform lives like they did for Michael and Hope? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like this video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.